Welcome back. It's 3 and Out here on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you on this Monday. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop here with you. BJ Bennett not with us. We hope to have him back tomorrow on the program. I think he overpartied from the London experience, Ben, with the Jags actually winning a game there. And so he'll be with us tomorrow on the program. But we got so much to get to here on the show, not to mention college football. We'll get to that in just a second. Obviously, LSU is going to make a coaching change at the end of the year. We'll have to talk about that. Brooks Austin is going to join us as he does each and every Monday, Dogs Daily on SI, here in hour number 1. So looking forward to talking about that as Georgia continues to roll and now has 2 weeks off before the cocktail party. But Ben, got to hit it because it's just the way they won the last couple of nights in the NLCS. 2-0 are the Braves against the Dodgers. They now go to L.A. Tomorrow. They'll play tomorrow afternoon / early evening. But walk-off fashion both nights. And I know Dodger fans saying, the Dodgers threw a bullpen game on Monday or on a Saturday, and the Braves barely won. Well, who'd you throw last night? Max Scherzer? Braves still won at the end of the day. So Braves 2-0. Freddie Freeman, awful in this series, and the Braves are still figuring out a way to win.
Yeah, Kevin, I mean, that's got to give you the most confidence, right, moving forward if you're this Braves team, knowing that, okay, most of the time you talk about, I said this last week, who's going to be the most important figure, most important player for this Braves team in this NLCS, and I said it was Freddie Free. For more than what he just brings to the team as far as like his bat or his glove, but 8 plate appearances, 7 strikeouts, hasn't been himself, but you understand that Freddie Freeman is a guy that's going to find a way to get it going. He's going to find a way to, figure it out. But Kevin, how much confidence does it give you if you are a Braves fan saying to yourself, look, this Braves team has scratched and clawed all year long. They didn't have the type of recipe that most people have going into this season. They understood that in order to win in the National League, you got to be able to play and win against these Dodgers. And how much did last year's NLCS, Kevin, kind of propel them to this year to saying, look, last year proved to us that we can play with these dudes. Yeah, they beat us. But while the Dodgers are obviously the best team in the National League, and that's nothing against these Braves, how much confidence have they built from this year, last year, even with the newcomers, on the team like Soler and those guys to know that, look, we don't have to have our best effort, but we still find a way to win in dramatic fashion 2 games in a row. And dare I say, I know it's going back to L.A., but how much more pressure is this L.A. team under knowing there is no Kershaw coming out and don't nobody win and all these excuses after you lose game 1. But like you said, what about game 2? And dare I say, this Braves team is playing with a lot of confidence.
And as they should be. And again, Ben, they've won 2 games with Freddie Freeman having an awful series at the plate. 0 for 8, 7 strikeouts, struck out 7 times in a row. That hasn't happened to him in a long, long time. I want to say it happened like 2013 or something. I mean, it's been a long time since Freddie Freeman's been this rough at the plate, and the Braves are still winning. And again, it's different guys. Austin Riley, who fans were on early in the season. Oh, is this the guy to answer at third base? Should you make a trade? Should you figure out somebody else at third base? You're going to be there long term. And now an MVP candidate at the end of the day. And it's really picked up the slack. Had the game-winning hit on Saturday. Had the game-tying hit on Sunday, Ben. And look, this is a team that has been remade. And I think if you're a Braves fan, you say, man, this thing is looking to be really good. Well, it is. But your starting outfield on the opening day was it Ronald Acuna, Marcell Ozuna, and I believe Ender Inciarte, none of whom are even able to play right now or not on the team anymore. So that is a completely different outfield. And in a lot of ways, you've been better. Jock Peterson, former Dodger, didn't want to re-sign him or couldn't re-sign him, trying to keep their payroll in order, goes to Chicago. Braves made a trade near the trade deadline to get Jock Peterson. What does he do? Hit one of the longest home runs you'll ever see at Truist Park, over the chop house into the upper deck in right field off of Max Scherzer. So all the moves seemingly from an offensive standpoint have come together to work out for the Braves. And Ben, say whatever you will. I guess we all are working on it. And y'all asked me this before the playoffs start and said, look, if Will Smith turns the corner and actually pitches well, do you owe an apology? Sure, I do. Yeah. And here he is in LCS, 2-0, ERA of 0, and getting the job done. Look, what more can you ask for out of Will Smith? And again, I'd like for him to do it 6 more times. I feel real good about it. If he can do 6 more, that means the Braves are World Series champions. So, look, I think what the Braves have done the last couple of days is nice. Now you got to go to L.A. and figure out a way to win a ball game where it's been awfully tough for Atlanta to do so. And now we talked to Ben Ingram last week, Ben. The history of the Braves going to Los Angeles is not good. And you'd like to say, well, hey, if you just win one, kind of do it and like you would if you weren't the home team. Hey, we just need to win one and come back home. Well, if you just win one, then you're up 3-2 with 2 games to play to try to win one game. So, look, the Braves are off to a great start and doing so without necessarily their best either. Ian Anderson did not pitch very deep in that ballgame, was not great. Had to go to the bullpen a lot last night. Braves did it. Clutch hitting late, got the win. So for all the things you could say about the Dodgers, I think you can say some of that stuff about the Braves as well, Ben. And look, they've been clutch in this series in a huge way. The starting pitching still, not starting pitching, but the pitching in general for a series of this caliber has still been pretty good.
And I think even that, I mean, when you think about Ian Anderson, Kevin has been really, really good. Last season didn't pitch as well, last night. But think about this: when your quote stars aren't aligning and you still winning, that shows a sign of not a good team, but a great team. If somebody would have told you that Freddie Freeman has had 8 plate appearances and 7 of them with strikeouts, you would think to yourself, oh man, the Braves, they're probably struggling. No, because we forget who emerged this year. Austin Riley, he not just answered the bell. He said, look, I'm an MVP candidate. Forget just me vowing to be the everyday third baseman. I am coming up huge. You talk about Soler and those guys coming up huge. You talk about, and I think the sign of any good team is when the best players don't got to be at their best, but the role players, because when you hear the word role player, you think, oh, those guys don't do much. No. They just play their roles better than anybody else. They don't have to be Freddie Free. And I will say that when you think about a guy in Will Smith, now, if Will Smith is playing the way he's playing, that got to give you a lot of confidence because Kevin goes back to 4th in the MLB last year in saves. Now, we watch Will Smith night in and night out. Now, if you would have told us that, we would have been like, when did that happen? But he was gaining confidence, and I would always say, guys want to show that they can be counted upon. Like Will Smith knows, look, man, I'm the last guy you're going to see regardless of the game. So I might as well get used to being in these pressure situations. And, Kevin, if I'm not, let me know if I'm, incorrect about this. This is why he was brought here. I understand you had enough of a resume to bring you here to do it for this team. And now the regular season it's hard to put away the regular season when you're in the postseason. But Will Smith was trying to show these guys, look, man, if Ian Anderson isn't pitching well, and these setup guys, they trying to bring me in to try to close this game out. And I do. And going back to LA 2-0 gives me a lot more, confidence going back 1-1 or down 0-2. I know this Dodgers team don't want to go quietly into the night. And hey, Braves, look, y'all can't just come back to Atlanta already going to the World Series. Y'all don't have to make it, give up a game. But I just say this Braves team as a whole, top to bottom, might not be the most talented team left in these playoffs, but they might be the most dangerous when you think about the fact that if your best players, so to speak, aren't playing well and you still finding a way to win, shout out to guys like Austin Riley and those guys finding a way to get it done. But yeah, Kevin, dare I say, watch out for them Braves, man, because I know them Dodgers fans, if you were on the Twitter sphere, they were, forget melting down. They took Twitter over. When you start blaming on the refs and all this other type of stuff, nope, because when they win, no excuses. So when they lose, you got to live with it. Shout out to them Braves up 2-0.
Absolutely. Ben Anderson hit us up with a note. And Ben, you are correct. I was trying to think way back. Christian Pache was the opening day starter and center fielder. So that
Mr. 24, the new Mr. 24?
25. Yeah,
okay.
I'm going to be not. He didn't say this, but you put on the Andrew Jones number. But yeah, what a turn it's been for that Braves outfield. We got so much to get to in terms of that. Braves will play tomorrow in Game 3 out in LA. We'll have that for you here, of course, full coverage tomorrow starting at 3:50 tomorrow afternoon. But college football never ceases to disappoint, Ben. Look, Georgia rolls once again over Kentucky. LSU has a new coach after a win, no less. LSU goes out, gets a nice win, and then the next day says, yeah, Coach O's not going to be coming back there at LSU. Just some of the storylines that number 2 goes down in Iowa. So another busy weekend in college football.
Unpredictability, Kevin. Isn't that why we watch? We understand that the usual suspects of Georgia is gonna solidify themselves the number 1 team in the country with Alabama. They bums now. They lost the game. No, they look really, really good this weekend as well. I mean, you got golf balls being thrown at former coaches. You got coaches and LSU and Coach O both coming to an agreement, and now the LSU head coach's job is up for grabs. But hey, Iowa goes down to the Boilermakers. Miami can't get a win. Florida, 35-35 going into the fourth quarter, lose 49-42. So Ty Grantham, fourth and Grantham is back up. Dan Mullen need to be fired. It's why we love college football, because it's unpredictable. But listen, unless you root for Georgia and unless you root for Alabama, you was up and down, because Arkansas, the honeymoon might be over, Kevin, because Auburn laid that wood to them Arkansas boys in a big time way. But yeah. College football, a lot to get to when you talk about college football. But yes, the usual suspects at the top. Georgia's still Georgia, Alabama's still Alabama, and a lot of teams in the Big Ten, in the top 10. That's going to switch up in a week or so. But yeah, that's why we love it. Golf balls, new coaches. Hey man, it's college football.
Mustard. Again, this is one of the things that I saw from the weekend. If you didn't see the Tennessee Ole Miss game, like, fans were mad at a close fourth down call that Tennessee didn't get on review. Ole Miss gets the ball back. Tennessee stops him anyways, gets the ball back with a chance to win. But on that call, Tennessee fans so mad they start throwing stuff on the field, including, as you said, a golf ball that hits Lane Kiffin and a full bottle of, I guess it was a full bottle. I still contend that maybe there wasn't even mustard in there to begin with. It was used to sneak something else into the stadium. But yeah, a mustard bottle found its way to the field. Where do these folks find that kind of stuff to toss on the field?
Where did folks find the time to even try to do these type of things? I finally go to a game. I'm trying to sneak a golf ball in and a mustard bottle. But hey, listen, there's somebody out there really dislikes Lane Kiffin, and they made sure I'm gonna get my seats in the end zone, and he's gonna be walking in, and I'm gonna throw it right at him. Now, Lane Kiffin definitely got 20/20 vision. Had that been me after a big win like that, I would have got pelted with that freaking mustard bottle. But Lane Kiffin caught it, made it look like much. I mean, now, whoever threw the golf ball got some serious aim. I mean, that is some serious aim. And but Lane Kiffin took it in stride. It only adds to the mystique of Lane Kiffin. Y'all are only making him more famous by doing these type of things. But Tennessee, listen, man, outside of getting the loss, man, talk to your fan base, man. There's a lonely hot dog out there waiting on some mustard, and it's a lonely freaking golfer out there looking for us golf ball. But shout out to them Ole Miss boys, Lane Kiffin, finding a way to get it done.
We've got more to come here on 3 Out. We're talking more SEC football when we come back. Also, Brooks Austin going to join us here in hour number 1. It's 3 and Out on this Monday. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. Good to have you back here on this Monday. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, glad you're making us a part of your day. Wild weekend, as it always is, seemingly in the SEC. And again, so much to unpack with our next guest. You can catch him on the Locked On SEC podcast, also on air in Houston on Sports Talk 790. Chris Gordy joins us here on 3 and Out. Chris, welcome. How are you?
What's going on, guys? Busy week for me. I'm actually talking to you guys right outside Fenway Park up here in Boston. So, yeah, I'm all over the place this time of year.
Hey, that's a great place to be for playoff baseball. I know you're there for Astros and Red Sox, but how surprised were you, as a lot of folks, LSU coming off a win in the Sunday morning talking points is, so we're going to not bring Coach O back next year, but he's going to stay and finish out the season.
Yeah, it's a very unique, weird situation, right? I mean, it's, like I can't remember an instance where it's been like this, where you hold a press conference and now the guy is fired, and then you tell him, all right, well, get back to work and we'll see, we'll keep this thing up till the end of the season. It's a really weird, unique situation, and I think what exacerbated it even more was, when they asked Coach O about, he talked to 2 recruits yesterday, and they said, what are you telling recruits? He said, I'm telling them how great LSU is. Come play for LSU. They're gonna hire a great coach next behind me. And it's like, that's so weird. Like, I don't think we've ever seen something like this. So, the interesting part is when you read the details about the buyout, he's going to be getting all the money that he has earned. He said he's going to take at least a year off from coaching and kind of reflect. And, when you read some of the details, they say, Coach O's still going to have to kind of act as an ambassador for the school. And it's unique because he does love LSU. He does love, everything about the school. It's just ultimately it didn't work out as him as the head coach anymore. So very strange, very unique circumstances. But I would say this, for teams like Ole Miss and Alabama next up on the schedule for LSU, it's a dangerous situation because this guy's playing with house money now. He gets paid no matter what, knows he's gone no matter what. So why not empty out the kitchen sink? You want to run trick plays, you want to do crazy things, why not try to go get some wins?
And Chris, how much did that narrative have to change? Because obviously Florida didn't do their part and get the win on Saturday, even though they did come out and say, "Listen, we decided to mutually part ways." But in a sense, is LSU trying to reshape how we look at kind of coach firings or separations? Because 15-0 can't do much better than that. But are they saying, look, because of this early signing period, let's try to go ahead and if we're going to get rid of a coach, get rid of him now. That way we can still try to salvage maybe this recruiting class.
Yeah, I think that is part of it. And like we said, nobody represents the brand of LSU or just, the recruiting face of it better than Coach O. And so, who better than him to sell people on, look, I'm selling you on the school. I'm selling you on wearing the purple and gold and running out in Death Valley. I'm not going to be the head coach here, but whoever they hire is going to be a good coach. So it's a unique situation. I don't know if we'll ever see this type of situation again. I know Scott Woodward, when he was at Washington, he respected Ty Willingham enough to wait to the end of the season to fire him. But I think the writing was on the wall here. Like, had they tried to play the charade of, oh, we don't know, we're going to talk about O's future at the end of the season, I think it was going to leak out that he was going to be fired and all that. So this kind of takes the awkwardness out of it. It takes the song and dance out of it of just, oh, we'll see what happens at the end of the season. No, they've already made the announcement. We're moving on no matter what happens the rest of the way. Would love to see Coach O go out on a high note and win some more games, upset some teams. But, yeah, I just don't know if we'll ever see this kind of situation again.
Chris, obviously, as you said, a strange situation there. And how nervous are the folks in your home neck of the woods there back around the Houston area? Because now there's an opening, and Jimbo Fisher at one point had said, hey, LSU's that dream gig I would love to have.
Yeah, I think the Alabama win kind of solidifies him. I think had he lost that game, I think a lot of folks at A&M would have been saying, hey, maybe it's a better thing to part ways here, because that would have been 3 straight losses. It would have been, basically spiraling quickly. I think that win over Saban and Alabama solidifies him as, a top-tier coach, and I think A&M's excited about the future there. I know the big headline is he doesn't have a buyout, and so he could, leave whenever he wants, but I think he's happy at A&M. I think he's going to stay there. I'm sure LSU will sniff around on him, but I think Jimbo's staying put at A&M.
Chris, a lot of big names out there for the LSU coaching job, but talk about how unique this coaching job has become. I mean, Nick Saban won the national championship. Les Miles won the national championship. And then when you look at Coach O, 15-0, won the national championship. I mean, every coach they've had up until this point has won national championship. How much greater, or how much harder is the head coach at LSU? But how intriguing is that LSU as a destination?
Well, the one thing nobody wants to talk about with college football coaches is all these guys have egos. They all think none of them are afraid of any circumstance. They all think they can go somewhere and go undefeated and win big. So I don't think anybody's going to be scared off by the pressures of the job. But, somebody said a few weeks ago, they said, man, LSU's really going to have to make the right hire here. They're really going to have to hit the lottery. And somebody else said, no, they really don't. Because when you look back at it, the last three coaches have all won championships there. So it's, it seems like anybody, you and I, Ben, you could step in and maybe win a championship at LSU. So it seems like whoever they hire is going to have a great opportunity to do so. But, yeah, I mean, it comes with that, the pressures. You can't have mediocre years. Everybody was like, okay, 5-5 year last year in the pandemic year, we're willing to give you a pass, but you better turn it around next year. And that's what happened this year. It didn't. They lost at UCLA. They blew a game late to Auburn, and then they got blown out on the road at Kentucky. I think most people are looking back at it and going, you're 9-8 now since you won that championship. And that's just not the standard that LSU holds for themselves. So, it comes with a lot of pressure. It comes with a lot of responsibility. But, hey, the odds are pretty good. You might win a championship while you're the head coach here because the last three guys all did it.
Chris Gordy, Hooked on SEC podcast, joining us here on 3 and Out. And Chris, you look at Georgia dominating again against Kentucky, setting up for a showdown with Florida, who struggled again this past weekend. What do you see there in Jacksonville in 2 weeks? Or is that not going to be a traditional cocktail party there in Jacksonville?
I know Florida has not looked right for much of this season. They've been very Jekyll and Hyde. 1 week they look good, 1 week they don't. But I think all that goes out of the window against Georgia. It's a rivalry game for a reason. We saw Kentucky was able to do some things successfully, and I say some things because it was just some things, but they were able to find the end zone twice, and that's something nobody's been able to do against this Georgia team all season. So, I think slowly but surely some teams are trying to find what we could do offensively to score some points on Georgia. That said, this Georgia defense is ridiculous. I mean, they may be one of the best in recent history in college football, but it'd be easy to just say Georgia's going to blow out Florida in 2 weeks, but it's a rivalry game for a reason. Dan Mullen's a good play caller. He's a good, schemer. I just wonder who's going to be the quarterback, because what we saw Emory Jones make some mistakes early in this game. Anthony Richardson, when he came in the second half against LSU, he started leading them right down the field, and I wonder if Dan Mullen and coaching staff going to look at that and say maybe we are better served rolling with Anthony Richardson as a starter.
And Chris, how crazy could this game actually become? If Georgia obviously is all world, and you look at this defense, Florida finds a way to get a big win. Is all forgiven for Dan Mullen, or is it just the fact that Dan Mullen, who has a really good resume but hasn't won an SEC championship, and obviously the third or fourth highest paid coach in the SEC right now, what is it going to take for him to get back in the good graces of these Gator fans?
Well, a win over Georgia would certainly help, but short of that, man, I don't know if there's much he can do the rest of the way this year. And that's one thing I've always been critical on Mullen was, as good as he did at Mississippi State, it was limited. I mean, even when he had Dak Prescott, they still never won the SEC West. They never got to Atlanta. And, granted, he had the ties to Florida. He had been there before, and everybody was excited. But, man, last year was in the first time they get to Atlanta, and obviously we know what happened in that game, and the playoff was already out of the picture. But, man, if I'm a Florida Gator fan, I start scratching my head going, man, if this year's already out, then what about next year? What about the year after? And are we going to be in a 4 or 5 year tailspin in Florida going, man, is this guy ever going to win the SEC East and ever going to get us to the college football playoff? I think that's what the standard should be for Florida. And right now, I don't know if Dan Mullen's ever going to get them there.
Chris Gordy, Hooked on SEC podcast, joining us here on 3 and Out. And Chris, just something fun as we enter the back half of the season, but Kentucky now has a loss. Georgia certainly their biggest test in the East. Ole Miss has already played Alabama. If Alabama beats Georgia, if they meet in the SEC championship game, what's the possibility you could be looking at maybe 4 SEC teams or maybe 3 SEC teams with just one loss at the end of the year?
Yeah, I think the most intriguing one is if Kentucky and Ole Miss both run the table. I think at this point, what we're looking at is if we get an SEC title game with a one-loss Bama versus an undefeated Georgia, Bama can win that game. I think Georgia and Bama are both in. But if Georgia wins, and that gives Alabama their second loss, obviously Bama's out of the picture. the question becomes, I don't think Kentucky or Ole Miss will have a good enough resume to get to the playoff, but certainly it'll be a toss-up between who goes to a New Year's Six Bowl between those two programs. So, I mean, you're right. A lot is on the line. I think if you're Greg Sankey and the commissioner's office, you're rooting for Georgia to run the table, and then you're rooting for Alabama to have the one loss into Atlanta, beat Georgia in a close game, and both Georgia and Bama get into the college football playoff, and then one of Kentucky or Ole Miss gets into a New Year's Six Bowl.
And Chris, I mean, I know it's all about Georgia right now. Definitely, hands down the best team in the country. But since that loss by Alabama, nobody's really talking about Alabama. They been getting it done on offense. Defense seems to be playing well. How dangerous is the Crimson Tide when kind of nobody's really talking about them right now?
Yeah, they're still real dangerous. This last week was a get-right game. They look more like the Alabama team we've become accustomed to. 7 sacks on Will Rogers, a couple of interceptions, held the Mike Leach air raid offense without a touchdown in the game, held them to just 3 field goals. So, yeah, Alabama definitely got right this past week, and Will Anderson has been a monster. 4 sacks this past week, and the defense looked much more like themselves the week after getting beat up by the A&M run game. So, yeah, it looks like Bama's kind of righting the ship here, and I know they gave up a lot of run yards to Florida, found a way to get the win. I know they lose on the field goal at A&M, but I would not be surprised if Alabama rights the ship, runs the table, and they end up getting into the playoff here.
Chris Gordy, Hooked on SEC podcast, our guest here on 3 Now. Chris, really appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Yeah, check out LockedOnSEC.com, guys, for anything for our podcast. Great segment a couple days ago with our buddy Ben Troop right there.
Yeah, Locked on SEC. Chris, we appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Chris Gordy joining us, Locked on SEC, and they're in Sports Radio in Houston, Sports Radio 790, talking all things SEC. We appreciate him joining us. We'll come back. We'll talk all things Georgia. Brooks Austin joins us every Monday. He'll join us next here on 3 and Out. Good to have you back here on this Monday. Georgia just keeps right on rolling along. A big win over Kentucky this past weekend. They stay undefeated now the week off before the cocktail party. Our next guest joins us every Monday here on the show from Dogs Daily on SI. Brooks Austin joins us. Brooks, how are you?
I'm doing well, gentlemen. How are you? Ben, are you in a mall? Where are you at?
Hey, listen. I'm in an undisclosed location. I would like to call this a mall, Brooks, but where I am right now, I would call it a place where people congregate to eat good food that their wife would not cook for them.
I was about to say they got a Cinnabon.
Yes.
Oh, they got a Cinnabon. Then you definitely in the mall, baby. You at a South Georgia mall.
Restaurants around here. I tell you that right. If you ever in my neck of the woods, just look at me. I'm gonna say it's edible, Austin. I hope you got a sound stomach.
Well, Brooks, certainly something that's been eaten. Oh, well, that's a horrible transition. It's a Georgia defense, but they did it again to Kentucky. And again, say what you want about the offense. I guess a slow start for them, but defense up until the very end of the game really did what they've done all season long.
Yeah, I mean, the game plan for Kentucky was rather simple. It was, hey, can we just survive to third and medium? And then, hey, if we win on 3rd and 5, we win that drive. But we have to do it like 12 times to do it. I ran some stats today. Kentucky was 6 for 8 on 3rd down, less than 5. So 3rd and 5 or less, they were 6 of 8. The problem was 5 of those 6 came on 1 or 2 drives rather. So their 2 scoring drives, they actually got into their game plan situations where they wanted to be 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5. They converted a lot. The rest of the game, they were 2 for 11 on 3rd down because they were facing a lot of 3rd and longs. So that's what it's going to require at this point to score on this defense. You're going to have to get into a bunch of manageable situations on 3rd down, 3rd and 2 to 3rd and 5. And you got to convert on daggum near all of them to put up enough points to score. And I think the other thing was that, Kentucky just tried to suffocate the football. They just tried to take the air out of the ball as much as they could. I think they ran, I'm looking at 94 snaps from Kentucky to Georgia's 50 offensively. So they ran a lot of plays on Saturdays. Now, granted, most of those came in that last drive. They had 22 plays on an 11-minute drive in the fourth quarter.
Now, Brooks, man, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about that last drive. I understand that when it comes to football, just like every other sport, you got unwritten rules. Game's over. Look, man, kneel down on the ball. I understand, because they understand that some of us are just box score watchers. Most people don't watch the game. They go straight to the box score.
Yeah.
But, the last thing you want to do, thank God it was the end of the game. Had it been another quarter, it probably would have got ugly for them. But just talk about that sequence of understanding, that long drive, calling the timeout to get the touchdown. I understand trying to build momentum for the next game, but that was a little bit ridiculous at that point.
No, here's what I think it was, Ben, and I talked about this today on my show. Situational football has never been more important. Like how you are in pivotal moments, how you are in pivotal situations in a football game have never been more important in college football. And I promise you, mark my words, there will be a moment at some point in this season where Kentucky gets the ball back in the fourth quarter with 11 minutes left and they're up 3 points. And coach walks into the huddle and says, guys, we got to go on an 8-minute, 9-minute drive, score a touchdown, put this into a 2-score game, give them the ball back with a minute left, and we win this football game. And he can look at those guys now and say, look, you've gone on a 22-play drive, 75 yards, and scored against the nation's #1 defense in the fourth quarter. By the way, with all of their starters on the field, Georgia wasn't pulling no punches. Adam Anderson and Nolan Smith were on the goal line gutting it out, trying to keep them out of your end zone. So you now have that. Like Kentucky can tell their players, we've done that. If we need an 8-minute drive, middle of the fourth quarter, we can summon it. We can go get it. We can win a football game late in the season. Those things are important. That's how you build a culture of actual success, football success at Kentucky, of all places. It's doing things like Mark Stoops did on Saturday when everybody just thinks it's for null and void. No, it's for a purpose. It's for culture. It's for confirmation of culture. That's exactly what it's for.
Brooks Austin joining us here on 3 Down. And Brooks, obviously now we get ready for the cocktail party. Stetson Bennett, another solid game. What's the decision now heading into the bye week in regards to starting quarterback? I know you have some thoughts on it, but I mean, you had one guy that's played well for 2-3 weeks now. Another guy that by the time you get to Jacksonville will not have played nearly a month.
Yeah. Look, I've been covering Georgia for 3 years now, and they still, for 2 of those years, they had Jake Fromm. There was no quote-unquote quarterback controversy. And I don't know what Kirby's going to do, will do, wants to do, thinks about doing when it comes to the quarterback position. I can tell you more about what Kirby does defensively, schematically, cultural fit than maybe a lot of people in my position. What I cannot do is explain to you what in the heck Kirby Smart thinks he's going to do with quarterback. So I don't know. But to me, I think it all boils down to whether or not JT Daniels is healthy. And I still think up until the Florida game, you got a bye week. If he's not healthy by Florida, then I think you start making plans to go elsewhere and continue going elsewhere. But if he's healthy against Florida, he starts and he plays. That's what I think.
Brooks, when you think about a guy like Stetson Bennett, it's always, yeah, he's good, but, or he's good, however. Is he the best fit for this team, though? I understand that JT Daniels preseason hype, 5-star, the big arm. But every time Stetson is in, the offense just clicks better. You look at the like the rapport he has with these tight ends and just the offense itself. I get what JT could do, but availability is your greatest ability in all sports. And last time I checked, Stetson is available. So what is it about Stetson that people are kind of apprehensive about outside of the fact that he's just not a big guy?
Well, I think it's that even when Stetson plays like relatively well and they win football games, they still win them how they did last Saturday, right? I mean, yeah, he was 14 for 20 for 250. But there was a lot of plays being made around him, not necessarily by him, if that makes sense. So, like, everybody wants the flashy quarterback, and part of it was because they were sold. I made the comparison to this, Ben. Back in 2000 and I think it was 1 or 2002, they released the reincarnated version of the PlayStation 1 and the PlayStation 2 within like 2 months of each other. So you get this brand new fancy PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2. And all the kids were asked for Christmas were asking for the PlayStation 2. Give me the PlayStation 2. Give me the PlayStation 2. All offseason, Georgia fans have been told about JT Daniels. He's going to be great. Heisman hopeful. You get into the season, and mom didn't buy you the PlayStation 2. You didn't get it for Christmas, but you got the reincarnated PlayStation 1, and it still runs kind of good, and it's all right, but it's not got that mega processor that you were told about. It doesn't have the great graphics ID card and graphics card that you were told about, but it's still good. And instead of being ungrateful and saying, no, we can win a national championship with this guy. We can play a bunch of good games with this PlayStation 1. You want to be, a little bit, you got some vitriol towards that other PlayStation because you wanted the nice fancy one that you've been promised all year. And I think that's what people are going through. He's a good football player. He's a really good college quarterback. That's what he is.
And again, Brooks, you said JT Daniels healthy. You think he should be the starter? Is there some impetus for JT Daniels to get out there, not only for his team, but selfishly? I mean, are you talking about if he can't play another game or two, all the stuff about NFL and all that, might he have to come back again when there's not enough game tape?
Oh, I think whether or not JT Daniels is coming back, and I don't mean to throw this grenade in the middle of the show as I'm leaving, but what makes people think JT Daniels is going to the NFL this year? Who? Who's out here talking about JT Daniels as a top 5 quarterback prospect right now in 2022? Nobody. We're talking Matt Corral. We're talking Desmond Ridder. We're talking about the kid from Nevada. There's a lot of quarterbacks. There are Keaton Slovis, the guy that beat him out at SC. There are a lot of quarterbacks that are getting talked about in the NFL. Malik Willis from Liberty. There's a lot of names that come up before JT Daniels' names come up, and he's got 3 games on tape this year, and they were him pretty banged up. He's got 4 games on tape from the year ago. His largest sample size is from 2018. Who out here thinking JT Daniels is just going up and going to the draft this year? That's not guaranteed. Matter of fact, it's leaning more towards the other way. He's probably going to be back next year, I would think.
Yeah. Let's talk about a guy who is definitely going to be back next year because he's too young to go pro, and that is Brock Bowers. I mean, my goodness, every week he's making a flash play, running away from defenders, looking like, the kid can just flat out do it all. Just talk about how not only is him being, the number 1 receiver right now, but how high of a ceiling does this young man have?
So, Ben, I think this is the great thing. And you played the position, so I'm sure you've loved the maturation of the position. Guys, Brock Bowers is just one of these next, 1,000 of these that are coming. The tight end position, more so than any other position in the modern spread offense, has been completely rejuvenated. It's completely different. No longer Darnell Washingtons of the world are fun. Brock Bowers of the world are going to cause everyone problems. Everyone problems. 6'5", 240, 4.5 40, 42-inch vertical. Who or what guards that? And that's what teams have getting put into. And now you run 11 personnel, you spread everybody out, and you can guarantee that specimen a one-on-one matchup with somebody. Or better yet, the way Monken does it, you can design that football player what we call a yak opportunity, a yard after the catch opportunity. Think about how many screen plays, slip screens, reverses, things like that they've ran with Brock Bowers this year. That's what I love about Todd Monken. You know exactly what he thinks or who he thinks a player is by the way in which he designs shots up for that player. And the way he's designing plays up for Brock Bowers right now is, here, son, here's the ball. Go make everyone else look less good than you are, and you're a freshman in college. That's insane. It's only going to get worse for college defenses everywhere else because he's going to get better. He's 19 years old. Guys, he was playing in Napa Valley, California last year this time. Napa Valley. Ben, have you ever played with, heard about, or even thought about Napa Valley, California football?
Sounds like they got real good wine there. That's what it sounds like. I've never had it, but that's what it sounds like.
They do. No ballers. Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is the one and only.
I was going to say they got one baller.
They got one baller, last name Bowers. Yeah. So he's a baller.
The one and only. I mean, history broken. History set. History ain't never going to be repeated probably out of Napa Valley.
Brooks Austin joining us here. Brooks, we got about a minute left. I know we got next week to talk about this as well, but you have the off week before the cocktail party. Georgia's played really well on defense, and you hear the talk from Gainesville, Emory Jones, Anthony Richardson. Does it matter for Georgia who quarterbacks that thing at this point?
I mean, I think it definitely matters. You've got to sustain offense like we talked about earlier, but if you're going to take shots at all against this Georgia defense, you're only going to get about one or two of them per game, and you got to have somebody that can actually see them and hit them. Most importantly, hit them. I mean, Dan Mullen's good enough to draw them up. You got to have somebody that can hit them. I like Anthony Richardson's skill set more than Emory Jones. That is no shot at Emory Jones. I just think one guy provides a level of unscriptedness, some creativity about him, some specialness about him. Same way that Bo Nix has. That's just like freaky. Never know when it's going to happen. May go really, really great. May go poorly. You've got to bet on things might go great against Georgia this year, which means you got to take gambles like playing Anthony Richardson, in my opinion.
Brooks Austin, Dogs Daily on SI. Brooks, always a pleasure. We'll talk to you next week.
See you, gentlemen. Y'all be good.
Appreciate it. Brooks Austin joining us here on 3 and Out. Georgia rolls over Kentucky. Now they get the 2 weeks off the week off before you get into the Florida game. And obviously, we talked about Stetson versus JT Daniels. He said if JT Daniels is healthy, he plays. Florida's got some quarterback questions of, I say more than Georgia has, but Florida's got quarterback questions of their own getting ready for this game.
Yeah, and I think you kind of saw what, Stetson Bennett has his shot last year against Georgia last year. And coming out of the game, it was, what if we had JT Daniels? If JT Daniels is healthy, because it's the biggest recruiting weekend for Florida and Georgia, JT Daniels will definitely get the start.
We've got more to come here. 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Unintended. Good to have you back here on 3 and Out. We'll chat with Matt Smith, southernpigskin.com. We'll talk a little SEC football with him. We'll take 3 next hour as well. So coming up in the final hour of the show, we'll do our good, the bad, and the ugly bin. We've had a lot of fun doing that each and every Monday here on the show, and certainly a lot of candidates for all 3 of those categories coming up as well. Did want to take a minute, though, quickly, Ben, while we have a minute, and put it out there again. Big story now out of Savannah. Folks looking for former Benedictine and Georgia Southern football player Wesley Kennedy, last seen near I-16, I-95 about 4 a.m. Possibly. No positive ID made there, but obviously parents have reached out concerned that he wasn't acting like himself and has not been seen from since yesterday. So if you are out and about in Savannah, you happen to see, please call the police. Do not let him out of your sight. Call the police and help out with the search there. And certainly he's a young man that Ben, I covered back at his time at BC, and certainly moving forward to Georgia Southern.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, heartbreaking story. I saw it, this morning when I was looking at it on the Twitter sphere, and we wishing that we hoping that he is all right. John Wesley Kennedy, as you mentioned, former Benedictine cadet, and played for the Georgia Southern Eagles. We hope, praying for his family, praying that he is safe, praying that he is found, because like I said, certain things trump football and sports, anything, and we're hoping that John Wesley Kennedy, wherever you are, man, listen, we praying for you, man. We love you, man. We hope that you are found safe and sound.
Certainly. We've got more coming back in hour number 2. This is 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We'd love to hear from you on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. Good to have you back here. 3 and Out, hour 2. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, thanks for making us a part of your day. Plenty to get to still on the show. We'll take 3 coming up in just a little bit. Also, the good, the bad, the ugly, as we do every Monday. We'll have that coming in the final hour of the program. But joining us here from SouthernPigskin.com, covers the SEC, Matt Smith joins us. Matt, welcome. How are you?
Hey, guys. I'm doing well. I have a group of Buffalo Bills fans in the house next to me in town for the football game tonight, and I'm thinking they're about to get rowdy. So I'm keeping my eye out for some table jumping in the next couple hours. But other than that, I'm doing pretty well.
Well, Matt, Tennessee is, has been like the center of a lot of just wild stuff. Like Vanderbilt almost won an SEC game. Tennessee has turned a football game into a cup tossing contest. I mean, there's been all kind of weird stuff happening in Tennessee lately.
It certainly was. That was perhaps unlike any other on Saturday night here in Knoxville, or not here in Knoxville, but in Knoxville. Certainly an ugly display from the fans. I get the pent-up frustration between all the factors that went into that, being Lane Kiffin coming back home, 10 or 15 years of not having much success, a long day of tailgating, a long night, at least one bad call that probably did not go Tennessee's way that shouldn't have. But boy, what a mess that was. And we'll see how Tennessee handles it. They got a few weeks until their next home game. Will there be alcohol limitations? Will there be student section limitations? I don't know, but expect some swift and severe reaction from that, because you can middle finger all you want, you can F-bomb all you want. You can't do what they did that crossed the line. That was a mess, and a bad look for the SEC, for Tennessee, and for college football as a whole, for sure.
And man, how much does this add to the already legend there is of Lane Kiffin in Tennessee when you think about how everything ended? Yes, the call didn't go their way, but the fact, he catching bottles, walking off the field, golf balls being thrown at him, and whoever threw that golf ball, they might be in the wrong profession. I am not a proponent of violence, but that is some serious aim, ladies and gentlemen. But how does this add to the legend already there is of Lane Kiffin in Tennessee?
Yeah, certainly not one of Joe Milton's family members that threw that ball, or it probably landed closer to midfield than where it did right next to Lane Kiffin. But yeah, it's kind of weird to me that it's been 12 years. Get over it. He went to USC. It's not like he went to Florida or Georgia or a rival. That's a top 5 job in the country by all accounts. Someone who's worked there, won national championships there. So I don't know why they can't get over that. Obviously, Kiffin kind of plays into it with his social media stuff, and was having some fun all week, and has been really ever since he got back in the SEC a number of years ago at Alabama. But it's just weird to me. And I think, as I listed, there are other factors going into that, of course, the kick time, the lack of success, the early probably bad call they got on the Matt Corral fumble that was blown dead. So I get some of that, but just wild to me that one person, one coach who had one reasonably decent season, but not great by any standards Tennessee football has said over the years, can have that much influence over a fan base like that. But obviously other factors went into that, but just weird that all that came to a boil in that type of fashion. Really hard to process as it was happening on Saturday night.
Certainly. And Matt, speaking of Lane Kiffin, having a heck of a season with Ole Miss, is it feasible that they sit here at the end of the year at 11-1 with their only loss being to Alabama? And how do people view that if that's your only loss on the docket?
Sure. I mean, it's possible. We've seen 11-1 non-division SEC team, be in the playoff conversation and get in before with Alabama, but that loss was so one-sided. They're not going to have a great non-conference win. Their SEC East games are Tennessee and Vanderbilt, so probably no one better than maybe 7-5 or 6-6 Tennessee team. So probably not going to be a lot of meat on that bone, barring some really impressive performances here, kind of in their season-defining stretch the next few weeks with LSU and Auburn and Texas A&M. So they probably do have the best player in the country, at least the most important player in the country right now in Matt Corral. So that certainly benefits them, and they'll get some eyeballs here in these coming weeks with those spotlight division games. So I guess it's possible. Certainly other factors as well. I think Cincinnati probably would still be ahead of them in that scenario, just a hunch, but you're going to need help from elsewhere. But I think that what helps them is their brand and the coach and the quarterback. I think what hurts them is probably going to be the resume, again, with the loss being so ugly as it was, even to a team like Alabama didn't do a whole lot. Non-conference with Louisville not looking like anything better than probably a 6-6, 7-5 team. So they got a shot. Long way to go there, but just keep stacking wins. And, maybe you get a 8-4, 9-3 Auburn team, beat them in Jordan-Hare impressively. That could look pretty good. So I'd be skeptical of those chances, but certainly wouldn't want to rule it out at this point.
And Matt, obviously, my Gators didn't get the memo that they're supposed to make the narrative easier after the game to go ahead and get rid of, Coach O. But then, have you ever seen anything like what's going on at LSU right now with Coach O and LSU seemingly deciding to separate, go ahead, and even though he's going to coach the rest of the season?
That was bizarre last night, watching him and Scott Woodward's press conference. Ben, I've never seen something like that, particularly to get fired the day after a win over a rival and a team you really hate. But you could hear from Orgeron's comments leading up to the game that he knew it was over. It was just a matter of time. I thought it was possible it could happen yesterday with the loss. Just because, we're going to do it during the bye week, but what if we somehow turn around and beat Ole Miss? And then that looks really dumb, but apparently they didn't think it looked that dumb because they won a game and then they did the next day. So the outcome was not surprising. The timing was certainly surprising that it all went down, but I think they were ready to do it on Sunday, and probably the LSU brass and Scott Woodward did not see that performance from this LSU team. And why would they, given the way they played at Kentucky last week ago, when it looks like they were kind of checked out, most of their star players suffering injuries and probably not coming back this year with Derek Stingley, Eli Ricks, Keishawn Butte. It was hard for that performance from LSU to all come together, but Florida certainly helped them out with a very bad defensive effort and kind of a curious quarterback rotation from Dan Mullen, who still doesn't seem to be quite sure how he wants to handle that, even though it's mid-October. So, but watching last night, just some of the comments they were making, it all seemed kind of surreal, on top of the fact that this guy went 15-0 and won a national title 21 months ago, to just be out that quickly, even though we've seen it 10 years ago with Gene Chizik in this conference. Just bizarre. It was the only way I could think watching some of that press conference.
Yeah, certainly strange. Matt Smith joining us here, SouthernPigskin.com. And Matt, speaking of that Florida team, obviously a tough loss there. Dan Mullen's going to get a lot of criticism coming out of that ball game, but now they got 2 weeks to figure out a team that nobody's been able to figure out in the Georgia Bulldogs.
Sure, and if there's one guy who I think can come up with a game plan to maybe get into the 20s against this defense, it probably is Mullen. But does he have the personnel on the defensive side of the ball to make that even be enough? I think Florida is good enough to put Georgia in a position where making some crucial and significant mistakes could cost them the game, if that makes sense. I don't think there's any other team on Georgia's schedule where even if Georgia gives you a C or a D game, they're at risk of losing. I think with what we've seen from Mullen in the past, he put together a really nice game plan against Alabama. This is a tougher task for Florida's offense, but I think, again, he's probably one of the few coaches with the talent he has on offense, not the talent he had last year, but still a decent amount of pieces to work with there to maybe get in the low 20s against this defense. Will that be enough to win? Probably not. They'll need some help from Georgia, and this team is just not making mistakes. They're not doing anything really eye-popping on offense, but they're just incredibly efficient, just getting 5, 6, 7 yards on the ground. Stetson Bennett has a really great target with the emergence of Brock Bowers there at tight end, and probably the piece this Georgia offense really needed to take to the next level was that quality tight end play that they're getting from Bowers so early in his career. So I think I'll just leave it at that if Georgia makes some significant and critical mistakes, I think Mullen, despite what we saw Saturday, which is for all intents and purposes a disaster on both sides of the ball, could put Georgia in a position where they could lose, and no one else until they see probably Alabama will be able to do that. But just given Mullen's track record, I still think he can figure something out over the next 12 days to potentially make the cocktail party at least interesting.
And, Matt, how similar is these quarterback situations when you talk about Georgia and Florida? Obviously, if JT Daniels is healthy, he's going to play, even though I think Stetson Bennett is the better player for this offense. And you talked about the situation with Emory Jones and Anthony Richardson. How similar are these two situations with Florida? Anthony Richardson obviously makes the offense go, but so much loyalty being shown to Emory Jones. And if JT Daniels is healthy, Stetson Bennett is going to have to watch in 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, they're kind of maybe inverses of each other in that the day one starters, Daniels, I think he's more of the higher ceiling, potentially lower floor guy. I think Bennett, you kind of know what you're getting. He's played really steady. Again, that offense, despite not being overly explosive, is just incredibly efficient in their numbers. And then I think with Florida, I think it's kind of the reverse, where Richardson might be the guy who has the higher ceiling, certainly in the passing game, but is more prone to potentially some damaging mistakes. Really ugly interception there that kind of ended that game for the Gators on Saturday. So I think there's parallels there, but it's kind of the inverse in that the number 2 guy is more of the balanced, efficient player in Stetson Bennett, while Florida is the one who can maybe take this offense up a level. But if it goes wrong, it could be more catastrophic than you're getting with a guy with Jones, who you at least know can be effective as a runner. So, yeah, I think there are some parallels there, but kind of inverse based on the 2 guys who started the season and how these situations have evolved over the last 6 or 7 weeks.
Matt Smith, SouthernPigskin.com, joining us here on 3 and Out. Matt, we're on the back half of the college football season. I know you enjoy doing these. I'll say it like that. But given what we've seen the first half of the season, are there doors open in the college football playoff, or at the end of the day, is it still going to be 3, maybe 4 of names we're highly familiar with in a mysterious slide by Cincinnati?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most interesting thing to play out will be what goes on in the Big Ten East. Now, I think Michigan is probably not at Ohio State's level, but I think they're as realer than they were a couple years ago when they were a top 5 team and went to Columbus late in the season and got absolutely slaughtered. I think they're legit. I think Penn State with a healthy Sean Clifford is pretty good. Obviously, things went completely south for them when he left the game against Iowa. So with that round, Michigan State, I really have no idea what they are, but they keep winning games. So they deserve the same credit Iowa was getting a week or 2 back. And we'll see as that round robin kicks off, I believe, between the 4 teams next weekend with Michigan, Michigan State, and Penn State, Ohio State. So I think that'll be interesting to see who emerges there. It's going to be tough now for the Big Ten to get 2 teams in, probably, with Iowa losing. The only situation there would be a 1-loss Iowa beating an undefeated Michigan or Michigan State. So I think that certainly helps the SEC's chances to get 2 teams in, which we think is, I would say, all but a guarantee. If an 11-1 Alabama beats a 12-0 Georgia, I think both of those teams are fine, regardless of what goes on elsewhere with Oklahoma and Cincinnati. So, yeah, could this cycle back to where we have, the core 5 we had to start the season? Obviously, Clemson's out, but could it go back to being Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and Oklahoma? Yeah, it's possible. I think we're all ready for some new blood in there. Cincinnati's probably the best contender, but I think the Big Ten East also, with a Penn State, with a Michigan, does have that potential as well, because Ohio State, despite looking really good, hasn't really played anybody over the past 4 or 5 weeks since that Oregon loss. But those tests are coming, and they might pass them all and be right back where they were the last couple of years in the playoffs. So probably the most interesting thing to play out over the second half of the season. But it's hard for me in the SEC, at least, to think we're on any other course but one that's going to end up with 11-1 Alabama and 12-0 Georgia and Atlanta in 6 or 7 weeks from now.
And man, from Cincinnati being number 2 to Iowa being number 2 to Georgia being number 1 to Alabama, being number 3 and number 4, how chaotic has the first half of this season been? When obviously when Alabama loses, that makes everybody go crazy. But do you think Clemson got everything kind of going crazy at this point?
That's probably the most shocking performance as a whole over the course of the 6 or 7 weeks together is from Clemson. Yeah, we didn't see Alabama's loss coming, but most seasons they do lose 1 game here or there. Ohio State, that was pretty surprising, but we knew with the defense not being quite there with a new quarterback, that was certainly possible. That Oregon did it in Columbus was surprising, but again, that's college football. But I think Clemson just week in and week out is having nothing on offense, and I don't think it takes away anything from what Georgia did in that opener, but it's mid-October into late October now, and they still haven't figured out their offense. And they're not playing, world beaters here in Syracuse and NC State and Boston College, and they're struggling to get 17, 20 points. So just stunning for what had been a 1A or a 1B program in the sport over the last 5 years to just look like an average run-of-the-mill ACC team now through enough data where we can say this is who Clemson is. They're not just young and replacing some really great players and needing 3 or 4 weeks to get it figured out. It's not going to get figured out this year. I don't think it's ugly every week we see them. So that's the big surprise of the season. Obviously, when you get a day like we had last Saturday, that was iconic, and I think one we'll be talking about for the next few seasons, looking back on everything that happened that day, from the crazy comebacks and the shootouts in the early portion to the weirdness of Penn State, Iowa to Alabama losing. I think that's what has made the season a ton of fun and given us some hope for those of us that like to see some new blood in there that we might get that. But again, as we've laid out, there's a pretty clear path where we get back to 4 of the core 5 being the last 4 standing come early December. So it's been a fun year in that sense. And, I think we got a lot more curveballs to come here over the next 6 or 7 weeks.
Matt Smith, southernpigskin.com, our guest here on 3 and Out. Matt, we appreciate it, and guard your picnic tables and your folding tables while the Bills Mafia is in town, man. We appreciate it.
No problem, guys. Thanks. See you later.
Appreciate it. Matt Smith joining us here on 3 and Out. And again, a wild weekend, as Ben, you have said, kind of what he hit on there at the end. That's what it looks like right now. But college football has been such a week-to-week thing where when you think you know, you don't know. Even Oklahoma, for as much people like, oh, we do Oklahoma. Yeah, raise your hand if you had Oklahoma not with Spencer Rattler as their quarterback getting it done. And he's not hurt.
Yeah. Well, Spencer Rattler being out, I mean, Iowa gets taken down by the almighty Purdue Boilermakers. Cincinnati being number 2 right now. Clemson being bad right now. Miami can't find a way to get a win. Georgia's number 1. Alabama, they bums. They lost the game. They're no longer good. But no, Kevin, this is what we want. This is the Kevin Thomas chaos. But always remember, if you're not a usual suspect, and when it comes to the college football playoff rankings, they're going to go off your previous resume and what they know you to be. We will see what happens, Kevin, but I will have to see it to believe it, because Cincinnati has beaten the almighty Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and that might not be enough for them still to make the Final Four when it does come.
A lot of football still to go. We've got more to come. We'll take 3 when we return. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you back here on this Monday. We'll get to the good, the bad, the ugly from the college football weekend coming up the final hour of the program. Also look at the Braves. Game 3 coming up tomorrow, early evening, 5:07 early pitch tomorrow for the Braves and Dodgers. Game 3 there from L.A. We'll also hear from Matt Moscona of ESPN 104.5 in Baton Rouge. Had a chance to speak with our own Christian Gokel and talk about that Ed Ogeron situation there at LSU and where do the Tigers go for their next head coach. So a lot of that still to come here on the show. But first, let's take 3 here on 3 and Out. All right, Ben. It's a shame BJ's not here today because the Jags won a game. That might just be the Jags won a game. Breaking news. Because the first time they've done it in 20 games. They had a 20-game losing streak snapped in London. Take one. Can they win 2 in a row? They got the Seahawks. They're off this week. They have the Seahawks in 2 weeks. No Russell Wilson. Can the Jags win 2?
Yeah, if they go back to London. They haven't really shown they can win on American soil. It's been, it's been well over a full season, right? It's been a season and 4 games since they've won a game. Went 1-15 last year. No, it's winning builds confidence, and this Jaguars team obviously got a lot of help yesterday for Brian Flores and his decision making or lack thereof yesterday, being 4 for 1 at midfield, him going for it, not getting it. That's how they end up making a couple of plays and kicking a field goal to win it. But the Jacksonville Jaguars are a very, very young team. Their team, their average age on their team is 25 years old and younger. And their key positions are very, very young guys who are still trying to figure out how to win and win consistently and at a high level. But can they do it? Yes. This Seattle Seahawks team, they got a bunch of guys, like DK Metcalf right now that's more worried about going back and forth on social media with Shannon Sharp than actually going out there trying to win games, who Seattle was coming off a big loss, last night against Pittsburgh. But yes, can they do it? Yes, because they've shown that, okay, this is what it's going to take to win. It's going to be scratching and clawing for every single inch, Kevin. They're going to any given Sunday reference. You got to scratch and claw. You got to be willing to die for that inch. But no, I think this Jacksonville team is like a lot of young teams. It's not the talent. It's just they're young. They're trying to figure out how to go out there and win. But can they get 2 in a row? We will see. It's good. They got to win. They get a, couple of weeks off, but those Seattle Seahawks, they're going to be, oh my God, they're going to be really, really looking forward to playing this young Jaguar squad.
Yeah, again, Urban Meyer probably needed that as much as anybody, right? To get a win, no matter, as you said, even if it was questionable decision making by the Dolphins. Can they win 2? I'm still going to withhold judgment on this Jaguars here. Again, that was a special set of circumstances. You said overseas trip.
And they typically do play well in London. That's why
I was going to say, even with the last couple they had lost, they haven't had too many where they just were flat out of the football game. Or do you every game?
Yes, they be in every. Think about Jacksonville. They be in every game they're in. It's just inexperience and lack of game tape shows at the end of most of these games with Jacksonville. I give Trevor Lawrence not a credit. He's not a front runner. He's a guy that wants to go out there every single snap. He's not trying to, and I'm not saying, guys, he's not like any nagging injuries or anything. He's trying to go out there and get a big win. But shout out to them Jaguars who, if it was up to Mr. Khan, it would be them London Jaguars if it was up to him. But shout out to them Jags for getting out there, because right now they are now, it's only one unbeaten team left in the National Football League, and that is by far the worst franchise. And I'm talking about the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, and again, we'll see if Jacksonville can turn into something. I think if the Jags end up winning 3 or 4 games from where they started, maybe that's a win there for Urban Meyer and company in year number 1. Moving on, take 2. Can the Braves finish off the series in Los Angeles? And I ask it that way because a lot of Dodger media were saying, oh, the Dodgers gave away game 1. This thing's not going back to Atlanta. Well, now if the Dodgers want to win it, it most definitely is. But can the Braves do the opposite? Can they finish this series in LA?
I say yes. And for this reason, Kevin, they're familiar with this squad. It's not like this is new for the Braves. The Braves have been, 4 years with Snit, now there's Anthopoulos, 4 years in the playoffs. Now, while the thing about this Dodgers team, are the Braves a better team than the Dodgers? No, but they don't have to be. Have the Braves gotten much better the last 4 years? Yes. And the Braves are also coming in, without Ronald Acuna Jr., without Mike Soroka, without Marcelo Zuna, and the list goes on and on. The Braves are finding a way to win ugly, and they're doing it with pitching. Now, it doesn't have to be lights out. I know BJ has the whole notion of you got to win in the playoffs with pitching. Well, you do, but you don't. Will Smith has been lights out thus far, Kevin. And I think because, sometimes, you want to be able to, kick that steel door, reinforce with LA Dodgers down at a certain point, because if you are Alex Anthopoulos, you can't be satisfied with going to the playoffs. And unfortunately, the Dodgers are, that Achilles heel for this Braves team. But I do think they can get it done, Kevin. Won't be easy, because just like last year, these Dodgers were kind of sleeping, and then they get down, they hit another gear. I think this Braves team is going to have to come with a really, really good game 3. Because that's gonna kind of decide what happens. Because if the Braves do come back, even with a cushion, I think that favors the Braves. I don't think the Braves want to get back on that plane, headed back to Truist, having to beat those guys at home.
Yeah, and again, I think this is one of those deals where can they? I think they can, but will they? I'm going to say it's going to be tough, because they just, for whatever reason, have not played well in Los Angeles. That's just documented what their record has been going to LA. Can you carry that momentum? Now, I think if they're going to do it, need to do it tomorrow. Charlie Morton, go out there, give you a good opportunity to go out and get it done and continue to hot play there in Los Angeles. But again, I think the goal is still 1 out of 3. If you can, that's not great, but if you win 1 out of 3, you get 2 cracks at home to win 1 game to send you to the World Series. And again, people say, well, you had better than that last year. Well, that was at a neutral site. You were playing in Texas. And the Dodgers just did what the Dodgers do. I think you got to ride that wave and try to hold them back as best you can. I think if you're going to do it, win tomorrow night, go up 3-0, and really put the pressures on the Dodgers to try to go out and beat you. They can do it. We've seen it. The Braves were, 6 outs from the World Series? Yeah. Got to go out there and do it. Or it might have been 3 outs from the World Series, and weren't able to finish. All right, moving along. Take 3. Can Florida, Ben, I know this is a tough spot. Can Florida compete with Georgia in 2 weeks? I say that knowing they've been up and down, had some tough losses that maybe you didn't see. Dan Mullen getting a little heat for what they're not doing on defense there with Todd Grantham. And you got a team playing, they should be, they're number 1, playing as well as anybody in the country in a defense that has not been figured out at all. So can Florida compete with Georgia? I didn't say win. I say can they compete with Georgia in 2 weeks?
Absolutely. And the reason why I say this is because, this Georgia team has been better, top to bottom as far as like talent-wise for the Florida team since Kirby Smart has been there, since Dan Mullen has been there. It's going to come down to, can you withstand the onslaught? I go back to when I played against Georgia, they had some really, really good rosters. And you understand that this defense is playing about as good as I've seen in a long time for Georgia. But can they do it? Yes. It's going to take a great effort. Georgia doesn't lack. I mean, I'm Georgia. Florida doesn't lack scheme. Florida lacks execution. And the one thing that Georgia's doing better than anybody right now, Kevin, is executing. Their offense isn't, world beaters, but their defense is just lights out. I mean, we were talking to Brooks Austin earlier. He was saying, listen, Kentucky had success when it was third and less than 5. Every other drive is 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. So for this Florida team, it's going to be sustained drives. It's going to be a great game plan. It's going to be great execution. It's going to be a great scheme. You go back to the Florida-Georgia game last year. Stetson Bennett was the starting quarterback. Kyle Pitts got knocked out the game. Kadarius Toney didn't have that big of a game. A lot of these guys in the game this year played last year. It's going to take a heroic effort for this Florida team to not just compete but win this game. But can they compete, Kevin? Yes. But this is the thing. Can you compete for 4 quarters? It's going to be the question. I do think they can. But that's why we play the game. That's why we show up. And hopefully they show up to show out and not just get shown up by these Georgia Bulldogs in 2 weeks.
And if they do, might that be it for Todd Grantham there at defensive coordinator?
Oh yeah, I mean Todd Grantham is definitely on that Ed Ogeron trajectory right now, because at the end of the day, you make too much money. And the thing about it is, Kevin, it's a head scratcher. You come up 2 points short against Alabama. You played extremely well against Kentucky. It was more or less like the team and not the defense. Then you have a head scratcher against 49 points. My goodness, it was 35-35 going into the fourth quarter. But yes, Todd Grantham, one of the highest paid coordinators in the country. You got to go out and get it done. And listen, if you ever met Dan Mullen, nobody, and I mean nobody, points the finger more than Dan Mullen. It's over there. It's over there. It's not right here. So I'm just saying, Dan Mullen gonna say it ain't me. I mean, we scored 42. We shouldn't have gave him 49. But yes, Todd Grantham. I hope you are renting at this point, sir, because the for sale signs are definitely going to be in the yard. Mrs. Grantham, may God bless you, because life is not fair sometimes. But yes, Kevin, they're going to have to play well on defense, because if it's one of those type of efforts, I was at the Florida Georgia game when McElwain was there, and it was 21-0 first quarter, but they had already made a decision to fire to fire Jim McElwain before the game. Ty Grantham, do not go to Twitter. Do not listen to the news. Do not watch TV because they are roughing you up right now.
Oh, yeah. We've got more to come. That's Take 3. We do it each and every day here at this time. We'll come back. And again, we talked to Ed Ogeron. We didn't talk to that, but we've talked about Ed Ogeron. He is going to be out at the season's end at LSU. That's now the 4th coaching vacancy, big-time college football here in 2021. And we still got 5-6 weeks left until we get to conference championship Saturday. So how many more are going to fall in line? We'll talk about that when we come back. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you back here, 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, glad you're making us a part of your day. And Ben, coaching vacancies out there, Southern Cal, UConn, Georgia Southern, and now LSU after Ed Ogeron comes to an agreement to not be the head coach at season's end, will stay and finish it out. And again, one of those weird things where you just had a nice win over Florida, and then you get, I don't know if I guess you can't really say fired other than we agreed to part ways at the end of the season. And usually when that happens, the coach is like, all right, I'm out. I mean, it's like, you got to have somebody here that can recruit, start to build towards the future. But no, Ed Ogeron's sticking around in one of these stranger situations. I know Ed Ogeron's had off the field stuff that's been of concern to LSU fans, but he did win a national championship 2 years ago, going 15-0 in one of the great all-time seasons we've ever seen in college football.
Yeah, it is a peculiar case, Kevin. I mean, when I saw it come out breaking news, I mean, both Coach Ogeron and LSU had decided to like separate apart ways. Number one, I can give LSU a lot of credit for kind of like, awarding Coach O for what he did in 2019. You can't take that away. He said it's been a great run. I mean, nobody exemplifies LSU more than Mr. Go Tigers himself, Coach Ogeron. But I think that, LSU was trying to do right, but while understanding that the future did not look bright for this LSU team. I mean, people thought that 2020 was because of, the NFL draft. It was because of opt-outs, and you got 2021 is outside of the Florida game yesterday. You really don't know how this season is going to end. And Kevin, you mentioned all the vacancies. You mentioned Georgia Southern. I mean, you mentioned UConn. You mentioned USC. I think what teams are understanding now is it's not a matter of that we fire these coaches. It's when we fire them, because Kevin, something you said, I go back to early signing day. It impacts the way you do everything, not just recruiting. But okay, if we're going to get rid of a coach, when do we do it? Now, that kind of goes back into the Coach O thing again. Why would he stay the rest of the season? He has made a lot of promises to the incoming class, the 2022 class LSU. He want to let them know that, look, I know that I'm the one, I could be a reason why you're coming here. Let LSU be the reason why you still choose LSU, because coaches come, coaches go, but it is still very, very peculiar. I know that LSU is not trying to be at the forefront of how coach firings are happening, but it was crazy, Kevin. If Florida would have won the game, it would have been easy, because everybody thought going into the game that Coach O losing 3 in a row could have potentially be the reason why he got fired, but they had already made this decision, and I've heard a lot of other rumblings that came out, because I think that 2020 had more to do, too, with off the field. You hear like, social issues and different things, and different things that Coach O was doing, which, I mean, I'm not going to get into that because I don't know the particulars of it, but it is peculiar, Kevin, that, it's going to be whoever replaces Coach O, though, I hope they don't think they're walking into, a situation where they're going to give you time and patience, because he did go 15-0. Les Miles did win a natty. Nick Saban did win a natty. So the last 3 coaches have all won natties, with Coach O probably having the best resume as far as the national championship year. Then, because I remember in 2004, LSU lost 1 game to them boys from Gainesville, and obviously they won in 2007. But yeah, Kevin, Coach O will be missed, because he did exemplify LSU when you think about what a face can do for a program. But yeah, Coach O's moving on. Probably decided they had to get them numbers right. That's what they really agreed to. This is what you're willing to take to get up out of here, Coach O. All right, cool. But now, Kevin, the coaching search begins, and I know that USC is a prime destination because it's in the Pac-12. It's in Los Angeles. I know that Georgia Southern is a great landing spot because it is, in the Sun Belt. But dude, LSU is gonna have its pick of the litter, and there are a lot of names that they covet to fill that spot.
It certainly are. And who is that attractor? I saw Jimbo Fisher had a press conference today. Might have just been his weekly press conference that they do, but obviously he was going to be asked about it. He said, "Look, I'm happy here at Texas A&M." Well, of course he is. That's what you're going to say. But what kind of guy are they getting? Again, because the money situation at LSU, as you said, is going to be good. But is it good enough to take guys who are already making great money and lure them over there? I don't know. I mean, Jimbo, of course, is going to come out and say, "I'm happy at Texas A&M." You don't start a weekly press conference saying, "Yeah, LSU's open, man. I definitely got my eyes on that bad boy." I mean, but look, who realistically is LSU going to go after here? Because I know there's a couple of rules of thought. Do you want to get a guy who's already established? Do you want to get a guy who's got a resume? Or do you want to take a chance on a guy who is an up-and-comer defensive, offensive kind of guru genius, if you will, and make them in charge of the LSU program?
I think you keep options open, Kevin. I think that's the great thing about LSU is they can decide a lot of different ways. I mean, you mentioned Jimbo, the second highest paid coach right now is Ed Ogeron. He's right behind old St. Nick at $9 million a year. So when you say who can they get, you can get a lot for $9 million. You can get a whole lot. Bill Napier's name is going to come up. I mean, I think when you think about a guy like Lane Kiffin, hot shot coach, Jimbo Fisher, let me tell you something I've learned about coaches. Can't trust them. Nope. Y'all say all kind of stuff. I don't want to hear that. 2 words, Mel Tucker. Mel Tucker left as the defensive coordinator. He went straight to Colorado State. How long did that last? It didn't last. He went straight to Michigan State. What is Michigan State right now? They're undefeated. A name that's popped up, Mel Tucker, because you don't show, listen, there is no loyalty to the team. It's loyalty to the bank account. And if I can give you $7-8 million a year before you even get to Baton Rouge, I think they're gonna be able to have their pick of the litter. I wouldn't trust nothing until it don't say breaking news. Jimbo Fisher, not the new head coach at LSU. I ain't trusting because all he gonna do is come out. Listen, when Jimbo Fisher left Florida State, did he talk to the players? Nope. Did he talk to DeAndre Francois? Nope. He took his Christmas tree and left it out on the front lawn, and he got on the plane and he got up out of it. So Kevin, you know, just like I know, coaches are trying to make as much money as they can, and they're trying to win as many games as they can to boost their resume and reputation. And the fact that LSU can pay $9 to a coach that's leaving, man, that means they got a lot of money down there, and they don't have to worry about that buyout.
And that's where I think the money has gotten so good. You start to ask yourself questions of, do you want to coach in the SEC? Yes. Do you want to coach in the SEC West with Bama and Auburn? I know you're one of those programs, and Coaching with Cheesemo says, yes, you do. But you're also in the SEC West, where now we've seen it not once, but twice. A guy get fired after he has won a national championship. Not before, hey, man, we just couldn't quite get us there. No, you won one. Nope, you're still gone. And it has happened now twice in less than 2 years. Gene Chizik won a national title. Less than 2 years, he's done. Coach O wins a title. Less than 2 years later, I mean, he'll be done officially after 2 years, but less than 2 years later, he gets the notice he's done. So, could I make 6 somewhere else and they're not going to fire me? Or do I go for the 9 where they could fire me even if I win at the end of the day?
I think that is your win-win though, Kevin, right? Because I know my buyout is going to be really, really high. I know I can gain a lot of money. Coach O signed that contract right after he won in 2019, and people were like, whoa, man, that's a big conversation. But you got to give it to him. That 2019 LSU team was already one of the best teams we've seen as far as like national championship, and they went unblemished at 15-0. But that is the best or the greatest that Coach O can do. He can't go nowhere but down, no matter what type of season they have. And let's face it, you're in the SEC West. That's a lot of stress. Texas A&M is playing well. Ole Miss is playing well as of late. Arkansas, they're playing better. Mississippi State gonna throw the ball around all the freaking time. Oh, and they're still Auburn and Alabama. There's a lot of stress, but it is LSU, one of the premier coaching destinations. You got to recruit in the state of Louisiana. You don't have to worry about. I mean, the Saints are not as big of a brand in that state than the LSU Tigers. You're in Baton Rouge, hour down the road from New Orleans, and they got a lot of money. I don't know if they got all money out down there in LSU, but they got something. And those boosters play big money. The next coach don't have to worry about the money, Kevin. Can you deal with that heat of being the next LSU head coach?
Yeah, I think that's where the expectations are going to be. But LSU is open. Ben, let's while we got a minute, look at some of the other ones that we think might be open by the time it's done. Because this is 4 already, and we just got to the halfway point of the college football season. I think we're just on the flip side now. I think LSU still got 5 games left. So we certainly know in the next coming weeks, there's going to be more. Who else is going to be having an opening? And that's what these teams also are going to contend with of, hey, I'm at LSU, but could a Miami gig be open? Which obviously is very attractive as far as recruiting is concerned. I mean, who else do you think is popping open here?
I think Miami is going to be open in the coming weeks. I think when you think about the early signing day, the early signing period, Kerry, Manny Diaz, I mean, once again, just like a USC, you talking about a story program, they're not paying for a good head coach. They're paying for what it used to be. They want that old thing back down there in Coral Gables. It's not going to happen when you think. And once again, Kevin, outside of Manny Diaz, as of late, all their coaches, before you start talking about the Manny, all their coaches winning the national championship, the Jimmy Johnsons of the world, different things. So I think that Manny Diaz is going to be out. And it's not his fault, man. I mean, look, he had a cup of coffee, up there in Temple, didn't even put his jacket, wasn't even on the chair yet. He's back on the plane next to Miami, I think. And it's another thing, too. I know that people like to talk about how long is Mack Brown going to coach? You really, really don't know. Mack Brown is not a spring chicken.
Yeah, they did not live up for expectations.
Exactly. And Mack Brown is there because he got a Sam Howell. How much longer does he want to coach? And I think that one of these SEC schools, maybe like an Ole Miss, maybe like a Texas A&M, maybe even a Michigan State might have an opening because they're going to be snatching one of these head coaches because you're going to have a guy that's coaching the SEC, that understands how to recruit in the SEC, and has an established reputation already. So Jimbo, Lane, Mel, y'all cell phone's still the same, and them dollars going to go up millions, man. It's going to get everybody's attention. So watch out for, Texas A&M, maybe even Michigan State or Ole Miss, but Miami, it's only a matter of time. Kevin Manny Diaz, he's done all he can do, but unfortunately, Miami isn't even an elite program at this point. They're just another program, and they're trying to get back to elite status.
We've got more to come here on 3 and Out. We'll hit the good, the bad, the ugly. Coming up top of the final hour as well. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you back here on 3 and Out. Busy final hour around the corner. We'll hear from Matt Moscano of ESPN 104.5 in Baton Rouge. He had a chance to speak with our own Christian Gokel about the latest with Ed Ogeron and how that all came about, what LSU might be looking for in their next head football coach. We'll also look at the Braves game 3 coming up tomorrow. Getting excited about that. Also, we'll do the good, the bad, and the ugly. Ben, there was a lot of all three from around college football this weekend, and we'll hit that coming up top of next hour.
Yeah, Kevin, there's a lot of good, a lot of bad, a lot of ugly. Unfortunately, my Florida Gators, we are not any a part of the good at this point. But yeah, Kevin, a lot to get to hour number 3.
There's still time. They can get in there at some point.
Mrs. Muller definitely trying to get in the good because she's tired of dealing with the bad. That is her husband right now with the nonsense.
Ben still won't watch the game at the end of the day. Did you even watch?
No. Well, unfortunately, on my phone, that's another thing too. When I go straight to ESPN or whatever, it'll pop up the game, so I can't even avoid it. And I knew something was wrong with PJ saying, "Hey, can we talk about the Florida game in the group chat?" And I said, "Hell no," because I already knew something wasn't good. Something wasn't good. So when I go to it, I'm like, 42 to what?
Nobody's going to say that in the group message.
I'm like, why you want to talk about Florida, not Penn State? I'm like, you know what? That's not good. But hey, man, it's Florida doing Florida things like, blocking each other and things of that nature. Kevin, Florida making the highlights for the wrong week.
PJ poking his head in there. Is it safe? Can we talk about Florida? No. Ben shut it down. That was fun. That was one of the funnier things from Saturday. I kind of just off the air. Nobody saw but us, but that was funny. Can we talk about Florida? No, we're not.
No, hell no.
No, Ben has shut it down. We are going to come back. We got another hour to go here on 3 and Out. We won't talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Matt Moscano will join us in the final hour as well here on 3 and Out. Good to have you back here. Final hour of 3 and Out. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop. Glad you were with us here on this Monday. Been staying up late with those Braves games. It's well worth it, Ben. Coming back, we'll talk about that coming up in just a little bit. Also hear from Matt Moscana, ESPN 104.5 in Baton Rouge, the latest with Coach O there in LSU. Where do they go for their next coaching hire? So we'll get to that coming up in just a little bit. But first, time for a little good, the bad, and the ugly from the college football weekend. We'll start out with the good news. Always want the good news first, Ben. Who was good this weekend?
More like really good. Them Georgia Bulldogs. I mean, all these narratives going into the game become much to do about nothing going out of the game. I mean, what? We just a couple of weeks removed from Arkansas is going to come into Georgia and it's going to be real bad. Nope. Georgia's going to go to Auburn and things get real freaky and crazy when they go up to Auburn. Nope. This Kentucky team, man, ranked 11, coming in 6-0 undefeated. I'm telling you, Chris Rodriguez, you look at that passing game with Will Levis and these guys, they got a good chance to come in and really knock off these Georgia Bulldogs. No, Georgia plays suffocating defense. They play complimentary offense. I mean, Stetson Bennett and Brock Bowers and these tight ends are finding a way to get it done with the passing game. They're doing it running back by committee. And dare I say, if you have to face the front seven of the Georgia Bulldogs, good luck with that, because nobody has been able to solve that problem. But yes, Georgia is a problem, and they're not good. They're really, really good. They're even elite. So them Georgia Bulldogs will be my good.
Yeah, I think Georgia, their defense specifically is who I pointed out as good. -1 drive at the end of the ball game, that 11-minute drive. Kentucky didn't do much of anything. They got one touchdown out there, didn't do much of anything. And as we talked with Brooks Austin, look, over the course of the season, we talked about that. Ben said, look, that last play for Kentucky, a teachable moment, call a timeout. We're still going to punch it and get the touchdown. That's a teachable moment for Kirby Smart. Look, I don't think they were out there reading their own press clippings and all that, but look, we have been so dominant that we give up a touchdown, an 11-minute drive. Everybody's looking around going, what in the world's going on? Well, that's why you got to finish that old cliche, finish the drill, finish it, finish strong. Don't let a team. What if you're in a situation, hasn't been all year, but let's say SEC championship game, let's say college football playoff game, and that team needs 75 yards and a touchdown to beat us. Well, a team just went on a 22-play, 11-minute drive against that defense. That doesn't happen. That's not supposed to happen. So outside of that, very, very good once again for the Georgia defense. What about the bad?
The bad, I got two bads. I mean, first I got them Iowa Hawkeyes. I mean, all this much to do about nothing. The Purdue, the storied tradition of the Purdue Boilermakers of knocking guys off. I think we 3 years removed, Kevin, 2 or 3 years when they knocked off the Ohio State Buckeyes. They found a way to beat. Listen, we're not going to make a lot of noise, but we will knock off top teams in our conference. And Florida Gator defense. I mean, bottom line, at the end of the day, Ty Grantham got to find a way to get it done. I mean, coming into this game, I think was leading the SEC in sacks, finding a way to get off the field, 49 points against a depleted LSU offense that didn't even have, Keyshawn Butte, one of the best receivers in college football. And I don't know what it is about Max Johnson. He seems to get up for the Florida Gators. I mean, 2 years, no problem, 2 wins against his Florida team. But yeah, that Florida defense, I mean, it was bad from open to ding. I mean, going into the fourth quarter, 35-35. Then it was tied 42-42. Final score 42-49. So let me get this straight. Florida scored 42 points, but gave up 49. So Ty Grantham, listen, I know we've been talking about people getting fired. I'm not calling for people to get fired, but Mrs. Grantham life can't be good right now because he got to avoid the inevitable, and that is Ty Grantham. 4th and Grantham, 3rd and Grantham. Get the hell out the field. Grantham could not happen on Saturday. So give me that Florida Gator D just laying an egg in Baton Rouge and Death Valley on Saturday.
Yeah, my bad's going to be Iowa, number 2 in college football. You come off a big win. Penn State, I know Penn State's quarterback got hurt, but you get a big win, go to number 2 in the country, and you get beat by Purdue. And not just beat, you get beat down 24-7, 4 picks. Throwing the football by Iowa, not a way to make a statement when you get up there to number 2 to lose to a team like Purdue. Again, nothing against Purdue. They find a way to beat Ohio State when Ohio State's been number 1. They have been kind of the rally killers, so to speak, there in the Big Ten, but you can't let that happen a week after you get up there into that number 2 spot. Iowa, my bad this week. And what about the ugly, Ben?
That would be the Tennessee Vols fan base. Now, I know it was a big deal. Lane Kiffins, coming back to Tyson Neal, 100,000 fans were going to be barking and screaming and yelling and, booing him, and I understand that. But then Got a bad call. I understand that was a bad call on the refs. And once again, Kevin, the ugly could be the refs not feeling the consequences of blowing games or changing the dynamic of the momentum of a game every week. But throwing golf balls, throwing mustard bottles. I mean, my thing is this. Tennessee don't like Lane Kiffin. But here's the problem. He coached there 12 years ago. It's not like he was the next – he wasn't a Lane Kiffin he is now back then. He was saying, look, man, I didn't know the SEC football was like this. I thought these people, like, they go crazy in the offseason. No, there is an offseason in SEC football, but golf balls and, like, you know, and throwing, like, you know, mustard bottles. Come on, Tennessee. This is low even for y'all. I mean, I get the fact that you don't like Lane Kiffin and everybody wants a villain, but you're throwing stuff at him. And I mean, he caught it going off the field. That was very, very nice, very, very smooth. But you added to the legend known as Lane Kiffin. But come on, Tennessee. Throwing, I mean, my goodness. I mean, Kevin, we talked about this. Of all things to sneak in the game, you went up to the concession stand and stole the freaking mustard bottle, and you walk in with a freaking golf ball. Get a life, do better. But come on, man, can't be throwing stuff.
Yeah, here's the thing. I know the players have helmets on and padding and all that, but you know, Lane Kiffin, nothing. You know, it's like you chunk a golf ball hard enough, unless you're in the front row, Ben. You chunk a golf ball hard enough to get down onto the field to hit Lane Kiffin. I mean, you hit him in the head in the right spot. He's out.
Yes.
I mean, that's
dislike, borderline hatred right there, Kevin. Because the thing is this, okay, this isn't just something you plan the week of. Somebody said, look, when Lane Kiffin comes, I'm going to be sitting right here. I'm going to go ball and I'm going to throw. And I understand, you know, Kevin, a genuine dislike from the fan base is, you know, it's warranted. I mean, we understand that. That's normal. Throwing stuff, that's when it gets a bit much. And guess what? Guess what you didn't factor in? There are cameras all over the stadium. So just because they didn't have the camera on you, no, the camera is still on you. And they should make your name public. And I'm talking about enemy number one of the mustard thrower, the mustard bottle thrower, and the golf ball thrower. You should be not allowed in any other game because it's not that serious. Because, I mean, it's all fun and games when somebody gets hurt. I credit Lane Kiffin with taking it in stride. But you lost the game anyway, and you only added to his legend. I mean, there is Lane Kiffin, but I think that's a bit much.
And you're out $250K from the SEC today as well. My ugly, I was going to say Tennessee, but I had to back up because I figured you might go there. My ugly, South Carolina. And again, you're playing SEC football, so on some level, I get it. South Carolina beat Vanderbilt. You're going, okay, they're supposed to do that. No. South Carolina beat Vanderbilt with 9 seconds left in the game. South Carolina, 9 seconds. Had to go on a 75-yard drive with Zeb Nolan, your backup quarterback who just came in fresh into the game. Had to go 75 yards and dump one in the end zone with 9 seconds to beat Vanderbilt. And again, they're an SEC school, but Vanderbilt now 0-16 in their last 16 games against SEC teams. 4 turnovers, 10 penalties, and you score with 9 seconds. I guess you won, but that was ugly, South Carolina.
9
Very
seconds
ugly.
left. I mean, at the end of the day, Kevin, they got it done. But listen, Beamer Ball wasn't what you thought it was going to be when you heard about Beamer Ball in the SEC, but you got it done because you better not lose to Vanderbilt. That's how you go from.
Somebody's going. Here's the thing I always told BJ about this because it is Vanderbilt, and I get it. Somebody is going to lose to Vanderbilt. They're just going to. You just don't want it to be you.
Exactly. That's the budding joke. At least we didn't lose to Vanderbilt. For South Carolina, 9 seconds left in the game. They was thinking, dude, you about to do the unthinkable.
It's like you're playing Alabama or something here, trying to beat Vanderbilt here on a Saturday afternoon. But no, South Carolina just and that was the kind of game you would expect if it comes down to 9 seconds, 4 turnovers, 10 penalties, way more penalties than Vanderbilt had. And again, you go to your backup quarterback who bails you out with 9 seconds in a ball game. That was ugly. So that's our good, our bad, and our ugly from the college football weekend. Hopefully we see more good as we continue to move on, because I know this was kind of a strange week with kind of weird games. You had the Tennessee, as Ben said, just something that shouldn't happen in college over a call that was, again, go to replay. And I get fans are frustrated, but man, and again, this is the thing. You still got the ball back.
Yeah, you did.
You still got the ball back and went down the field. Now, if you want to, yell at your backup quarterback for.
Oh, if that wouldn't happen. And I will say this. I mean, honorable mention LA Dodgers fans, y'all, and LA Dodger beat writers. I mean, all this, we get no, you didn't give up anything in game one. The Braves won game one and game two. But that's the problem. When the usual suspects isn't what, what people say, don't nobody care about the Braves. BS. People do care about the Braves. You do not care about the Braves. And Kevin, doesn't that make winning even more better? It's like this. It's like, I want to win to kind of throw it in their faces because these beat writers for the Dodgers, I'm telling you, y'all kind of showed y'all, you know what I'm saying, y'all ugly side on Saturday night. Y'all was talking that big stuff.
Yeah.
But that's why you play the game. And because all this, we know how this ends. No. 2020 was last year. You better step up to 2021.
Yeah.
And Clayton Kershaw, he ain't running out of there this year.
I mean, and I get it. Like Dodger fans saying what you have to say to make yourself feel good. Oh, well, Dodgers didn't lose the game. Like the Braves didn't win it. The Dodgers just kind of gave it away. Well, in back-to-back nights, the Braves have pitched better consistently, pitched better in big moments, and the Braves have not one but 2 walk-off hits. The end. Where's the Dodgers' clutch hits? Now they maybe have some stored up when they get to LA. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be like that, Ben, and say, it can't be done. But look, the Braves have been a more clutch baseball team so far in this series than the Dodgers. You have to look at it and say that's the case. They've pitched better in big moments with their bullpen, and they've come up with the walk-off hit in back-to-back ball games. Now they got to go prove it again. You updating your resume daily has been like to say you got to go to LA and win where we don't normally do it. But the Braves have very much gone out and won the first 2 games of the series. Hadn't been the Dodgers just giving it to them. No, that Jock Peterson home run wasn't the oops. That thing is still going. That was amazing.
Moonshot.
We'll get to that coming up in just a little bit. We'll talk Braves and Dodgers. But when we come back, we'll hear from Matt Moscona. Had a chance to speak with our own Christian Gokel, ESPN 104.5 in Baton Rouge. We'll get the very latest from him on the Ed Ogeron situation, who LSU might be looking at for their next head football coach. It's 3 and Out on this Monday afternoon. Good to have you back here on 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop here with you. LSU going to have a coaching change done at the end of the season. Ed Orgeron going to be out at the end of the day, at the end of the year. And earlier on Second Down, our own Christian Gokel had a chance to speak with Matt Moscona, ESPN Radio 104.5 in Baton Rouge, about that decision and where LSU might be going with their next head football coach.
Matt Moscona, host of After Further Review. Matt, thank you so much for taking the time, and I'm sure in what's a really crazy time for you guys right now.
Yeah, it's never boring here, that's for sure, but it's my pleasure. Thanks for the invite.
And the news, I mean, just following some of your stuff, not overly surprising that LSU decides to move on from Ed Orgeron. And you had spoken last week about the fact that you kind of saw this coming in terms of he's going to finish out the year with the team. What do you think went into that thought process? Because I know a lot of people think it's kind of like breaking up with somebody and still living in the same house.
Yeah, it is kind of odd. So there is precedent for it. LSU's athletic director, Scott Woodward, when he was at the University of Washington, did the same thing when he had Tyrone Willingham there as his coach in 2008. After the 7th game, they announced that Willingham would not return but would finish the season. So there's a couple of reasons why you might do it that way. The most obvious that LSU just doesn't have a really good option for an interim head coach, which is a big reason why this is going the way it has. Back in 2016, when Les Miles was fired, you had Ed Orgeron, who had been an interim coach, had been a head coach.
Sure.
So that makes sense. The other thing is it's LSU's administration cover now to go begin a coaching search in earnest and not wait until Thanksgiving when the regular season ends. You don't have the speculation from now until the end of the year about will he be fired or won't he, where the narrative had become more about that than it had about the games. So it does answer a lot of questions and change the narrative a bit for the remainder of the season.
And still 5 games on the schedule and some massive games coming up on that schedule. But when you look at the program itself, this is a reset. But the lifeblood of any college football team is recruiting. How bad do you think this affects it? Or do you think with him staying on and some of those guys on staff maybe trying to keep their jobs, how do you think this affects their recruiting?
Sure. I think that's one of the key points also why you make the announcement now. Because it allows LSU to be transparent with recruits, where you can say, you can paint the picture hypothetically where, let's say, LSU and Georgia were going head-to-head for a recruit. Well, Kirby or his staff could say, why would you go there? You don't know if your coach is going to be there. Now you don't have that. There's transparency there with recruits, where LSU's administrators can say to recruits, here's who we're looking at. This is the process we're following. We'll have a coach in place. This is what we're thinking. It's obviously not an ideal situation, especially with the December signing period. This used to be less of a big deal whenever it was in February, but now with the December signing period, it's sort of rushed that process, which is a big part of the reason also why you do it now. It might help you keep this recruiting class together.
How will LSU fans remember Ed Orgeron and his tenure? Because a lot of people have compared it to what happened with Gene Chizik at Auburn. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of parallels. You have a transitional or just a transformational quarterback talent transfer into your program. You go undefeated and win a national championship, and then a couple years later, you're out of a job. But I mean, 15-0 and maybe the best team ever. I feel like you give it a couple years, fans are going to look back fondly on Ed Orgeron.
Yeah, the comparisons are fair with Chizik and how that played out. The circumstances might not be complete apples to apples, but I do think mostly LSU fans are just going to revere 2019.
Okay.
You're already starting to hear a lot of that chatter around Baton Rouge, where this, Ed's firing felt like an inevitability. Even last year, coming into this season, it just felt like with a new athletic director, who didn't hire him, a lot of off the field stuff going on. That one misstep, and certainly a lackluster season, he'd be out. So I think fans have been preparing themselves for this. But guys, to have witnessed 2019 was just something that few fans ever actually get to experience not just a championship, but something of that caliber, which is in the conversation on the short list for the greatest team and greatest season in the history of the sport. So
certainly,
I mean, if you trade all the muck for that one shiny toy, man, I think LSU fans would take it 100 times out of 100.
Now, I'm sure there's millions of words being written about this as we speak, and have probably already been published, but the best you can, if you could just summarize why you felt like it was a given Ed Orgeron would probably be fired this season.
Oh, I need a lot of words for that. Well, I mean, you can start with the fact, obviously, that he was working for an athletic director that didn't hire him.
Yeah.
So every AD wants to look at football coaching hire as a legacy hire for an athletic director. And Scott Woodward is an LSU alum and came back here ultimately to do this. The other part of it is just that there have been so many things away from the field that have magnified the pressure of the result on the field. LSU is in the middle of a Title IX investigation. Ed Orgeron is a defendant in 2 Title IX lawsuits. There have been too many instances of public relations disasters. Ed Orgeron taking pictures in bed with women, and stories now leaking of him having girlfriends at practice with their kids. And when some might think he would be working, he's at a casino pool with a woman in a bikini, running shirtless on the beach. I mean, guys, there's so many of these that I'm not here to judge anybody. Ed's a single man who can live his life the way he wants. But I think you also have to remember that when you're the head coach at LSU, you're the highest paid employee in the state. You are the face of not only the football program, but the university. And there's an expectation you carry yourself a certain way. And he didn't do that. There was too much of that. And when you have that, the Title IX lawsuits, last summer in our country with the George Floyd protest, there was a lot of racial unrest, and Ed lost his locker room amid all of that. And it's hard to come back from that once you walk down that road and broken that trust. All of those things on top of the issues they've had on the field. We haven't even talked about the failed coordinator hire, how much money that's cost LSU. I mean, the evidence was massive, and he needed a contending season, and he just didn't get it.
Yeah, and now 4-3 it was interesting timing because you get a massive win over Florida and a 11 o'clock your time game. I know a noon game for us on the East Coast, but just an awesome game back and forth. And then you get the news shortly thereafter that he's not coming back. But now the question turns to who's going to be the next guy. I know that there's already all kinds of betting odds out. Lane Kiffin is the number one on all of the betting lists that I've seen so far. Obviously, Jimbo Fisher is always going to be a name that's mentioned. Is it absolutely going to be a head coach, or do you see LSU maybe dipping into the coordinator? Because in my opinion, this is one of the jobs in the country where you can kind of do like the Mr. Steal Your Coach, where it doesn't matter where they're coaching. This is LSU. We are a premier job, and we can go plug people from anywhere.
Yeah, I know that's how LSU views it, certainly. LSU has a lot of built-in advantages. It's the only Power 5 in a talent-rich state, which puts more guys in the NFL per capita than any state in the country. You have resources from facilities and salaries and any type of financial resources you need. And LSU is, aside from Alabama, the only school that's won 3 national titles since 2003. I mean, LSU's last 3 coaches have all played for and won national titles. Right. So there's a ton to sell. Also keep in mind, LSU's athletic director, Scott Woodward, he is a big game hunter, man. When he was at Washington, he got Chris Peterson away from Boise. When he was at A&M, he hired Jimbo Fisher. Since he's been at LSU, he hired Kim Mulkey, 3-time national championship winning coach, away from Baylor to come coach LSU. Scott is smart and tactful and generally gets what he wants. And I'll be interested to see what direction this turns. And I will say, LSU has a new university president as well, who just got in place in May. William Tate is his name, and came from South Carolina, incidentally. And President Tate is the first Black president in the history of LSU, and it is something that is being certainly talked about in circles that he has a strong desire for this to be a legacy hire, to the first minority head football coach at LSU. And I think there was a very real, and not to say that that would ever be the only criteria by
Sure.
which you make a hire, but I think there was a very real interest in making that happen, which you're going to see James Franklin, Mel Tucker, names prominently mentioned in this search. Now, it's mentioning a name and getting across the finish line and signing a contract or almost lifetimes apart, it seems sometimes. But those are considerations with this job. But to the question, will it be a coordinator? Most certainly it will not. It will be someone with head coaching experience.
What about for Matt Moscona though? Like, who's on your wish list?
So I gotta have to say, like, what's realistic, right? I mean,
Yeah,
Nick Saban. Nick Saban was
that's number one on everybody's wish list. Yeah,
right. A name like Urban Meyer would fit the bill, but remember LSU has has the middle of this Title IX lawsuit.
Yeah.
I get the sense that this is going to be a squeaky clean hire, which would take guys like Hugh Freeze and Urban Meyer and essentially scratch them off the list. For me, I think an offensive-minded coach with a proven track record as a head coach would be incredible, especially with someone who knew how to win in the SEC. So for me, I'd give you two names. I would tell you Lane Kiffin or James Franklin. I mean, either one of those guys, I mean, I'd almost walk to the airport to pick them up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think either one of those guys would just, with the resources they would have here, would just crush it here.
All right, and quickly here, because I know you got to roll. We're obviously home of Georgia in Savannah, and I just got to get the outside opinion because we sit on here and talk every day, and they kind of have to pump me up because I'm always the pessimistic waiting for the other shoe to drop. But from the outside looking in, how good is this Georgia team? Because I know the running joke had been since Kirby Smart got there, yeah, you're really good in the East, and then you go on a road game in the West and just get absolutely smacked. You think about 2019 against LSU in the SEC Championship, and then 2018 at LSU where Georgia just got smacked in back-to-back games. But from the outside looking in, how good is this Georgia team?
I can understand that feeling, actually, because you got about 40 years to validate it.
Yeah.
But Georgia's the best team in the country by a long shot. I'm curious how the narrative around Georgia might be different had Bama not rallied with Tua in 2017. If Kirby had gotten him one and had beaten Nick, the whole assistant coach not to beat Saban narrative would have been over. And that anyway, this Georgia team in particular, especially to be doing it without JT Daniels and all the other guys that are injured. I mean, you guys know better than me, but I would assume at some point that encyclopedia
it's nuts
list of injured players, like some of those guys are going to be coming back. I know the defensive back, the All-American from Tyke Smith, I mean, I just look at Georgia and I go, they're only going to get better because they're going to get healthier. And man, if someone stands in front of that freight train and stops it, I'll be surprised, especially in the year where it doesn't seem like there's a real contender.
Yeah, it's Georgia has been the one consistent we can rely on week in and week out. Got a bye week with Florida coming up. Matt Moscona, 104.5 ESPN in Baton Rouge. After further review, you can listen to him from 3 to 6 Central Time. And you can follow him on Twitter at Matt, Moscona. Matt, we really appreciate the time, man. Look forward to watching LSU and what develops with them, and hopefully talk to you again soon.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Great to be here on this Monday. Kevin and Ben. BJ will be back with us tomorrow on the show, but Braves tomorrow as well. A little early evening baseball for you. 5 o'clock tomorrow out in LA. Ben, 2-0. Braves are up again. Been in a similar situation. Got to finish the deal against the Dodgers, but if they don't want to come back to Atlanta, going to have to do so in LA. They'll have 3 games this week: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They're in Los Angeles to try to win 2, or it comes back to Atlanta.
What a difference a year makes. I know, Kevin, last year we was talking about how because it was such a shortened season, it was the Braves like overachieving because it was a short season, and you proved it this year. I mean, even though it was unorthodox in the way in which they was winning games, a new cast of characters, but same result. And obviously it's these pesky Dodgers, right? Like if you think about this Braves team, they was like, look, I mean, it's not too often you're going to want which 100 and something win team would you like? Would you like the Dodgers or would you like the Giants? I'll take the Giants. I'll take the Giants for 100, Alex. But I think that this Braves team, Kevin, in a sense, they wanted the Dodgers because they was like, look, I don't want to hear that who did you play to get there. No, we're playing the Dodgers. And this Dodgers team is always going to be good. You could take Clayton Kershaw off this team. They're still very, very good as they've proven to be throughout the course of the year. But I think this Braves team is playing with a lot of confidence, a lot of poise, Kevin. And, they're doing it in dramatic fashion. Like, once again, Freddie Freeman has not played well at all. 8 plate appearances, 7 strikeouts, and they're up 2-0, which means that's got to be confident. That's got to feel good for him, Kevin, not his performances, but no, I don't have to be the end-all, be-all. I don't have to have my best stuff for us to go out there and get a win. This Dodgers team is not going to go quietly into the night, and if you've been on Twitter and you've seen the beat writers and the fans, they think the same. They think that, listen, man, we're going to tie this thing up, potentially, these next couple of games. But if you're the Braves, you got to feel good going to LA, Kevin, because you took care of home field. Like, you took care of business 2 games at home, going up 2-0. And no matter what the Dodgers say, they know this isn't the same Braves team either. Like, look, saw these guys last year. That Ron Acuna guy, I mean, he was incredible. He's not even here right now. And when you look at how different, you talked about it, Kevin, how different the outfield looks. And for these guys that they got at the trade deadline to still be there, to still be playing well, I mean, just very, very impressed with this Braves team. Obviously, they're only up 2, and if you go back to last year, that didn't seem to, bode well for the Braves. End up losing that series. But I think you take it one game at a time. Game 3 is up next. You do not look past these Dodgers. They're gonna give you all they can handle. But once again, Kevin, if the Braves play their best, if they're playing their best on offense and defense, how much more dangerous are they? Because Jock Peterson, I don't think that ball still hasn't landed. That was a freaking moonshot. But what gives me the most, confidence moving forward with this Braves team is they just like playing with each other, and they understand that, look, man, we're not saying we can't be beat, kind of like Alabama mentality. We're not saying we can't be beat, but you got to beat us. And Will Smith pitching the way he's pitching right now, oh, man, that's probably been the surprise of the, of the postseason thus far.
Yeah, and again, I think there's something to be said, Ben, for this team. We talked about it for the first part of the year where they were kind of scuffling around. We're like, man, this Braves team has been so good, close and late. They've been clutch for the last couple of years, best late inning team in baseball. And maybe that just the tide turns on you and it catches up with you after a while. Well, the first 2 games, they've been great, clutch, and in late. I mean, again, I think we asked the question last week on the show, who's the most important guy for the Braves? And I said Tyler Matzek and Luke Jackson. Well, who's been out there in this series trying to stem it in the middle of the game to get to Will Smith? It's been Luke Jackson and Tyler Matzek. They've been fantastic. And the Braves are starting to show a little bit of that clutch and late magic. And maybe playing at home has something to do with it too. But that late and close magic that they've had in the last couple of years under Brian Snitker, 2 walk-off wins to get things started. Pitching has been phenomenal in the late innings. And to me, I think tomorrow night or tomorrow early evening, whatever you want to call it, is critical. You put the Dodgers down 3-0. I think that's so huge. You got Charlie Morton against Walker Buehler, great pitching matchup. But if this Braves team can find a way to win, how huge is that? Because I think from my standpoint, and, I don't believe in all the Atlanta curse thing, but whatever. Yeah. Bad stuff happens in sports. It's hard to believe, but it does. But to me, you just don't let a good team like the Dodgers up off the mat, right? Don't give them the opportunity to say, well, that was in Atlanta. Now we're in LA. We're going to take care of our business one game at a time. We're going to get back in this thing. I think putting a team in a 3-0 hole, even if you don't win the other 2, is so huge from a momentum standpoint, from a psychological standpoint, because you're putting the Dodgers in a spot where they're like, we have to win 4 games in a row. And in the Braves, it's baseball. Anything can happen in a 1-game setting where all you need is 1. And we've seen that from this Braves team. They have been phenomenal clutching late here, especially in this series.
If they go about 3, Kevin, now that's pressure on them Dodgers. Now that's the one thing that the Dodgers really haven't had on their side outside of the fact that, what they had to deal with them San Francisco Giants. I think that this Braves team, too, I think you said it, too, in sports, Steph, in the playoffs, you suffocate your opponent. You don't give them any air. I mean, that good sportsmanship is what you learn along the way. When you understand how hard it is to win in professional sports and then to make it to the playoffs, it's prestigious. And then to have to get there against a team like the Dodgers, for which they've had their struggles trying to get to this point, finally got over the hump. When you the Braves team, you're like, look, man, we let them up after we suffocated. We try to revive them after we knocked them out. You can't give them, because that's how dangerous. The Dodgers just need a little bit of life, and then they'll take everything from you. I mean, what? I mean, it's once again. I mean, when you think about that part of 300. I mean, give them nothing and take from them everything. You have to. And when you think about this Braves team, they play better with a cushion during the game, in a series. They're just a better team. The Braves play loose. The Braves play confident. But they got to play aggressive, because if you go up 3-0, now how much more aggressive do that Dodgers team have to be, which leads to more mistakes? But I just like the Braves' chances, Kevin. I mean, I don't know how the culture is in LA. I don't know how the culture is in Boston. I don't know how the culture is in Houston. I do know how it is in Atlanta. And these guys like playing with each other. These guys really enjoy, I think Ronald Acuna being at Truist Park last night just to show that, listen, man, I am healthy again. Yeah. And they're doing this without him. So if you're Ronald, and you would love him to be there. But, yeah, Kevin, not missing a beat. And if they can go up by 3, oh, my goodness, what does that do for this Braves team that, once again, run out your best pitcher game 4? We'll see who that's going to be as of right now. But got to take care of game 3. Do not look. Because if you give this Dodgers team life, you won't even realize that you was up to with how good this team is.
Yeah, and again, this is a Dodgers team. And again, you say, well, why are you sounding so shaky up 2-0? I mean, well, this is still a Dodgers team that won 106 games. They won almost 20 more games than you did in the Atlanta Braves. And I know that could be for a number of reasons, but this is a good ball club, and this is a team that has the pedigree. You talk about those Atlanta Braves teams that made the playoffs 14 straight years in a row. People didn't want to play the Braves in the postseason because they knew they're going to be a tough out. They've been there. They've been through some of the battles, and down 0-1, 0-2, they weren't going to panic. I mean, you said something last week. Hey, Tennessee Titans, you finally got to the postseason and you panicked when you got there, right? This is a Dodgers team that's not going to panic. 0-2, whatever. It's back in L.A. We'll go win this one, and now we're only down a game, and that's nothing. And so I think that's their kind of approach that they're taking. And again, if I'm Atlanta, you take every opportunity you can to try to put them down 3-0 and really put the pressure on them, because now, as you said, you can afford to set up your pitching to get 1 game. Whereas, if it wasn't that way, maybe you pitch Max Fried on less than full rest. Maybe you have to do some things. You win tomorrow night and you go up 3-0, you maybe give Max Fried an extra day off and say, we'll give you another day's rest, and then we're really going to go after it there in Game 5 on Thursday with our best guy on full rest, or as close to it, ready to go to try to put this thing away. So huge game tomorrow for the Atlanta Braves, no question. We've got so much more to get to here on the show. I know, Ben, you got something, teams maybe flirting a little bit with trying to knock down these Atlanta Braves. We've got more to come here. It is 3 and Out on this Monday afternoon. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. Good to have you back here on 3 and Out. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop. Thanks for making us a part of your day. And Ben's rocking the Braves hat as he does. Actually, you went with the Park Ranger hat there for a while. Now you've switched back up to the Braves. All right, I'm not going to accuse you of putting your front running shoes on because you have worn the Braves hat well before this.
Yes.
But the Braves obviously back in it. You switched to the Braves hat. Maybe Ben is the reason we're getting all these clutch hits.
No. Oh no. I will say this. If you see me in any type of like any hat other than my Park Ranger hat, it's only going to be a Braves hat, and it always been like that for me. I've always only really worn Braves hats because I've been blessed enough to live all over, lived in Tennessee, lived in California, lived up north, and it's always why Braves, and I'm always saying this, why not? Like I understand that the New York Yankees hat is very, very iconic, Jay-Z and Alicia Keys and sung New York, but I love the Braves. I mean, I make no excuses about it, Kevin. I'm just like my fandom for the Braves. I keep it down. I became a Braves fan because of my grandfather. My grandfather told me growing up. Look, I said, Granddaddy, what's something you never do? He said, you never ever go against the Braves. Never. And you don't go against. And the thing is, Kevin, how spoiled are we though? Like when you think about what the Braves mean to us. I mean, you grew up on Bobby Cox, man. Bobby Cox getting thrown out to us was normal. It's when he did get thrown out, what's wrong with Bobby tonight? He ain't. So to watch this Braves team over the years, Kevin, finally get over the hump with a guy in Alex Anthopoulos who, let's face it, I had my questions marked too when he got hired. You hired within the organization with Snit, who had already been there for 40 years, and look at what they're doing. If this Braves team has been ahead of schedule since Snit got there. If they can beat this Dodgers team. And I'm not saying if they beat the Dodgers, that means they're gonna beat the winner of Houston or Boston. But man, they beat this Dodgers team, Kevin. My goodness, man, I might have to wear this Braves hat for the rest of the year if they do that. But shout out to them Braves though, finding a way to get it done, Kevin. And it's not like I'm not saying nobody is a slouch, but if you beat the Dodgers, man, your team is equipped to beat almost anybody in the major.
Well, that's what I when we were talking about last week, said, hey, who do you want, Dodgers or Giants? And somebody said, hey, well, to be the man, you got to go through. You got to beat the man. And the Dodgers right now have been that team that everybody's chasing in the National League. So there is some kind of gratification you will get if the Braves are able to do that. Not gonna lie, and I go way back before, too far back, but I go back before Bobby Cox. I got when I was a young kid, I believe. Joe Torre was actually the manager for a hot minute. Chuck Tanner.
Joe Torre played for the Braves,
yeah.
I think.
Chuck Tanner was the manager. I think Ted Turner got to manage for one game. If you ever read that story, that's a whole nother thing. But then you get into Bobby Cox era where, I'm at that time I'm in middle school, high school, and the Braves finally win a World Series. It's unbelievable. And, you try to pass that along to people and, you talk about what it means. Like my kids ask me all the time, and it's funny. My youngest son said this the other day, he goes, wait, so the Braves have only won the World Series one time since you've been alive? I said, you got it, bud. So you better enjoy it if it happens, because you never know. I mean, it's like, you just don't know what happens.
We ain't Cubs fans, but it ain't that big of a difference. It's been rough.
But the Cubs in their big drought have won. They've won as much as the Braves had. The Red Sox, the
Braves were very, very consistent in the early 90s, Kevin, trying to get them 2020s and 21s back to them dynasty years.
Shoot, the doggone Marlins fans have had more World Series championships than the Braves have had. That's tough.
It is. I mean,
the Braves have won way more, but not the.
I don't like giving credit to these other fan bases, but hey, Braves, come on, man, let's get one man so that trash talking can go up to another level.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll celebrate right here with you. We'll have Braves baseball tomorrow, 3:50 pregame coverage for Game 3 there from Los Angeles. So first pitch just after 5 o'clock tomorrow. We'll have, of course, full coverage for you right here. We've also got Game 3 of Red Sox and the Astros coming up tonight, so that should be a whole lot of fun. That series tied up at a game apiece. We'll have that coming up tonight, 7:30 pregame, first pitch just after 8 o'clock. So looking forward to it. Hopefully we get some good Brave stuff to talk about later in the week. Appreciate Chris Gordy, Locked On SEC podcast, for joining us, Ben. Also, Brooks Austin, who joins us every Monday, Dogs Daily on SI. Of course, Georgia, Florida got the bye week this week before the cocktail party there in Jacksonville. Looking forward to it, Ben? Or
I am looking forward to it, Kevin, because at the end of the day, I expect anything but good news. I expect the unpredictable. But Dan Mullen, hey, man, show up one time in your life, which is what I say every freaking week.
Yeah, and you got the Ben's Florida and Georgia Legends Series coming up next week from the Westin as well. Make your plans to join us on a Friday night week of the game. We'll see you tomorrow here on 3 and Out.